Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 3rd, 2010 Lake Washington School District Board of Directors meeting. We've just come from a work session on facility planning, which everyone will have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about later from our superintendent. And board members, you have in front of you revised agenda, and then you'll see a revised board meeting schedule for next year is also there for you, the change. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Doug and then Nancy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So our host school is?
Great, thanks, Jackie. Tonight we are privileged to have Redmond Junior High School here tonight to host us and talk a little bit about the programs that are going on at Redmond Junior High School. So I'd like to introduce our fine principal, Prado Barone, who I expect is going to be bringing people up to share as well. Prado and Sean Cassidy. Great.
Thank you for the invitation to speak to you this evening. Do you know what we set on? Test. There we go. I'd like to thank the board for the invitation to speak to you tonight about Redmond Junior High School and what makes us tick. Tried to focus on what makes us different from typical schools, so you see some highlighted programs for that, and we're looking at about maybe 10 to 15 minutes max. This is extremely important to us. This is our mission statement: outstanding teaching, nurturing, and guiding the learning of each student. Not only should it be short enough to fit on a t-shirt, but it should be about your core business. And you cannot get away from outstanding teaching and learning no matter how our organizations change and our societies. So that is our mission statement. Our vision statement is we're committed to fostering a safe, nurturing, challenging learning environment which our students can grow as caring, competent, healthy individuals, because these characteristics are more likely to develop when everybody works together. We'll develop strong relationships with our family and community. And these are things that we believe in, and you will find them embedded in this document. And in those last two statements, you'll find more alignment at the end of next year with this document. We believe in it. We had a part in developing it. And so you'll see our vision statement and our belief segments echoing this document in future years. Redmond Junior High School is about 900 students, and it was developed around a floor plan that was designed for teaming. So in those pod areas that we have, that is a core value of this institution and a strong commitment as we move forward. There are 6 pods that provide a balanced curriculum model. So we have 7th and 8th grade teams that are cross-curricular, 90 students, and it really allows for good teacher support. So there's good dialogue and a planning period of that particular day where they can talk about how those students are responding across 3 of those classes. We have language, arts, science, and social studies. Math is a little bit harder to team, and you can do it about 50% of the time, and then it kind of falls apart. So we do have a couple of those teams that are also teamed with mathematics. Next year, we'll be implementing PLCs, and you'll hear more about that in the presentation. And it's going to provide the same common prep period for the teachers, but it will be by content and grade level. So if you're teaching the same class, you will have a common prep period in which you can plan the curriculum, delivering the curriculum through instruction, and looking at common assessment in the same course. So this is really exciting work and the core of the PLCs that we're looking at. We will have that going on every day. So the planning will be every day, and we think that really works well for these teachers to connect. And we'll be using our early release Wednesdays to continue our cross-curricular work. So we kind of have a hybrid system of both. We don't have to go to one style of teaming. We can have both styles of teaming in a single building, and there are few institutions that can do that. So we're very thankful for that Wednesday afternoon that we can break away and have our grade level teams and cross-curricular work as well. We have our WASL scores, and you guys are fully aware of our WASL scores, so we won't spend too much time on those. But we do know that we are classified as a high-performing school, and that we have anywhere from 5 to 6 schools visit us throughout the year to come and look at what we're doing at Redmond Junior High School in terms of scoring. So we do quite well with that. When we look at our SIP plan and we're moving towards our standard scores, we know that we're going to improve at least by 2%, and we're following an established trend line. Our 7th grade scores are going to jump anywhere closer to 5%, we believe, because we're going to double our Quest We have doubled our Quest, which is the gifted accelerated population, at Redmond Junior this year, so we should see a higher one than that. We have some uncertainty about MSP and the correlation to WASL, but what we do not have any uncertainty about is the Lake Washington School District curriculum. It is solid, it is founded on standards, and we believe if we teach it and we focus on it, those standardized scores are going to rise and go high no matter what we do. So even though we have some misgiving about how do we schedule it, how do we goal set with it, we feel really good about our instruction and what we're doing at Redmond Junior High School. In our SIP plan, you'll find a strong development and growth of professional learning communities. And so we've spent a year discussing that, defining it, and interpreting all of those major concepts of how they feel and fit with Redmond Junior High School. We do know at the core that it is around discussion of teacher collaboration and student achievement, and that will be the goal moving forward. Our grade level meetings have been very valuable this year, and we have focused on our kids. Of our 900 kids, we have 103 that struggle, and we know them by name, and we know their families, and we know all about their in-class behaviors. So we have developed a wonderful database around collaboration and extended teacher work together to identify these students and what can we do. We've tried to identify what strategies we've used, what interventions, and the progress that they have, and documented all of those things. That's critical information as we get ready to move that forward. This has been our best year in understanding and knowing those students. So I'm very, very proud of these teachers and how they've worked to do that work. In the latter part of the school year, we're beginning that transition of that information over to the new teams, and as we formalize our class lists, that will help us balance those out better than we ever have in terms of quality teaching and instruction for our needy kids. We spent some time in response to intervention theory and practice, and we're going to do some work on that, and it will result in some schedule changes at Redmond Junior High School with our BEL schedule. We have a homeroom and a 10-minute break period that will now be put into more instructional support time. We've gone through what interventions do we do in the classroom and what do we typically do in a content area, but the real question we have yet to answer is what are we going to do system-wide in intervening in these 103 students. And so we're in the process of doing some work around homework lunch and some other creative activities with that. We'll do more work with that as we roll into next year. Social studies, we've been out ahead of the curve for quite some time in that. We've done classroom-based assessments when they first came out, and we do them at all 3 grades. So we have 791 students who took them. 84% of those met standard on the classroom-based assessment, and we expect to increase to 87 this year. It's a refining process each year as they go through that, and we get better and better at testing, and they get better and better at learning through our instruction. In our 9 characteristic survey in our SIP plan, we're going to work on commitments to improve our connection and collaboration among each other. And they're measured by the following 3 staff items. Staff trust one another, they work together to solve problems, relate school issues, and they feel free to express their ideas and opinions to each other. Those are the 3 that we've chosen, and we're going to increase those by 5%. It feels like we're going to eclipse that 5% by quite a bit this year. The collaboration has been solid. The grade level teamwork has really fed into this particular goal, and we've had specific times where we've been working with the staff around mixing them up and getting the collaboration, communication around key staff issues. We have 3 programs that are Lake Washington School programs at Redmond Junior High School. One is the Quest, Gifted or Highly Capable, English Language Learners, and Special Education Transition Program. If you missed it, you may have heard that Redmond Junior's student, Samvit Jain, had the best history paper written ever in the universe. Samvit Jain is an amazing student who comes out of that Quest program, and we support the National History Day competition in which we research, write, learn how to develop and copyright and follow all the laws related to that type of production, and he wrote his paper on Chief Joseph. The crowning glory of that was not that he came back as the national champion, but the tribe from Idaho contacted us directly at the school, presented him with a gift from the chief, from the Nez Perce tribe. It was real world education. And so we feel like we do an outstanding job in pushing these students. Unfortunately, we also know that if he graduates from all the AP classes, he will be behind the world average. So we push him very, very hard in junior high, and I think we have the most rigorous program in Washington State for junior high gifted students. We also have an amazing math team that's supported by a number of these folks. In the 2nd year in a row, we are first or second. And this year, the math champions in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade all come from Redmond Junior High School. Siraj, Austin, and Kolya. Kolya is in the high school category. He is among 236 students that will be competing nationwide for national recognition in mathematics. He'll be taking AP Calculus in 9th grade next year. So we're excited about him. Our English language learner program is very different in that we have 51 students, 15 countries, 12 languages, and only 13% Hispanic. So we have a very interesting time with all of these languages where we're teaching the essential daily language, but also the core language that they need to learn. So we've done some work in sending some of our gen ed teachers to these programs in terms of how to teach the ELL student in their classroom. So we're very excited about that. These students can range anywhere from the poverty of Mexico to the high levels of mathematics and science knowledge that come from our Ukrainian areas and also in our Asian countries. So that's our English language learners. I want to introduce to you my #1 right-hand man who covers special education, and that is Sean Cassidy, and he's the assistant principal at Redmond Junior High School.
Thank you, Prado. Thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to speak here tonight. Very excited to share a little about Redmond Junior High and brag about some of our unique opportunities and programs we have at the school. I'm going to talk a little about the transition program. It's led by Darlene Poitra, a national board certified teacher, and 7 of her para-educators in the room, about 20 students who are severely disabled but still are working on academic and life skills in this classroom. Our school is unique in the fact that we really value the inclusion of these students in all of our classrooms, whether it be math, Spanish, science. We want to pull these students out and have them in our rich curriculum and in our rich environment out with the other students. One thing we've started the last couple of years is what we call celebrity lunches, where we actually have those students be the hosts and invite students and teachers in. And that's a picture of me right before Thanksgiving, where I kind of brought in a turkey actually a couple days before, put in a brine, talked a little bit about how a brine works with a turkey. The next day we cooked the turkey in the classroom, carving the turkey, talked a little bit about the bone structures and the muscle groupings. And it was, again, another opportunity and then just sit around the table and talk around a good turkey sandwich. So again, that is really a fun situation in that. We also do a lot of community outings, whether it be bowling. There's a picture of the Mariners game, which has become an every year tradition where we actually go out. For some of these students, it's the first time they've gone out to an outing like this without their parents or stayed up past 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And to give them not only the experience, but also to learn such rich social skills, not only leading up to the event, but also after. It really is a fantastic community that's within our little special ed program. We also have a unique class at Redmond Junior High School that deals with students on the autism spectrum. It was originally worked out by our department chair, Mary Chandler, as well as our special education coordinator, Christy Collins. The idea is to supporting students on the autism spectrum, with Asperger's or with autism, and helping them attain their social or behavioral goals in their IEPs. The basic is it's a 4th period class around their lunch, where they have 30 minutes where they talk around a social lesson, whether a social story, and then they work on it, and then they go out and have lunch with their peers. Maybe it'll be a set of some kind. And then in the next 30 minutes, they'll come back and talk and reflect about what things have gone on during the last 30 minutes of lunch. So it's an opportunity for them to reflect about what was going on. We have our speech language pathologists as well as outside members from the Ryther Child Center group to come and help us with our students. We also use the Michelle Garcia Winter curriculum that's around the social stories. We have a fantastic ASB student body led by one of the staff stars earlier this month, Chris Broderick. We focus on student government, student leadership, and student participation. It really is through those things, distinct but yet combined, where we really feel we have an outstanding ASB. We use the acronym CARS to represent the cultural, athletic, recreational, and social life, the fun stuff that comes along at Redmond Junior High School. And that's what ASB helps support, fund, raise money for, but also provide. Things like dances and drives fall into that category. So again, this is a picture of getting set up for one of our dances. You'll see it a little bit later. And again, it's a series of pictures of some fun stuff that is related to our ASB. Our magazine drive is the very heart and core of our ASB as it raises the money. It's our main fundraiser. We really only have one fundraiser, and we tell our PTSA that this is our one fundraiser we do. And even through difficult times with the economy, we've steadfast with our commitment to that and have had a very rich ASB curriculum and experiences due to the fact of only having one fundraiser. We have a variety of charity drives, usually in December. We have a variety of assemblies from Martin Luther King Day to Veterans Day. This is an example of one of our dances. It was a Hollywood theme. Paparazzi, this is as kids walk in to the main doors of the dance. They get their ticket taken, and they're met by the paparazzi and walk down underneath the Hollywood sign, eventually to where our dance is. This is, again, set up for our cosmic out-of-the-world dance that we have. Our dances are absolutely fantastic. We do not have the issue of some of the inappropriate dances. That was something that we had to tackle about 5 years ago, and I would feel comfortable having my 8-year-old daughter come to our dances. This is a tropical theme. And again, we have lots of spirit days where kids dress up, wear our colors, and have a lot of fun in the process. We have a series of clubs that meet. Our most recent one is our Current Events Club that recently made awareness of some of the forgotten children of Ethiopia. And so we're very excited about that. The Ignite Mentoring Program is a program that many junior highs have, but it is something that we feel really brings the tone right off the bat in September to our incoming students, gives them an older, hopefully wiser student to pair up with, and gives them a connection. So if they do have problems with a locker, problems with knowing which pod is which, they have somebody that they know is going to be a friendly face and will help them find where they need to go. And finally, athletics, where we try to connect students through school, through sports. Athletics is a huge way for that goes above and beyond just what we can provide in our normal academic curriculum. We feel it builds teamwork and school spirit. Our coaches at Redmond Junior High School focus a lot on training and skill development, much more than winning at all costs. Some of our unique things we're doing at Redmond Junior High is our community service projects. We have facility cleanups with our track and our gyms and our fields. We also do things where we're on teacher support. And finally, dugout construction. This is a picture of Thomas Crosley, a former student in leadership, helping build our roofs for our dugouts, which in weather like this is very beneficial. So we now have 4 dugouts set up, mostly student and teacher constructed. So we're very excited about that. We have a great program of athletics, and we're very proud of that. But again, I'll pass it back to Mr. Brony for the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
We have Redmond Junior After Hours, which is a very unique collaboration with the City of Redmond. They're sponsored through a whole series of grants, but they arrive at my school probably 3 days a week for after-school work. And they do all kinds of different activities. You can see some of them there. When we set up that partnership, I specifically asked them, I want to make sure that there are multicultural elements to this program. So I want to be able to honor everything that we're doing in terms of the different diversities that we see throughout Redmond Junior High School. So there's some examples of what we've done. We had them come in and do some cricket and do some work with that as well. So we have some donation of all of our cricket equipment and go out there and take a swing, give a try. Kids get to experience a little different world. We have where Redmond Junior takes them, the city takes them to rock climbing and gets these kids. These kids are from all different backgrounds, and it's not money dependent. So it's a wonderful program with transportation provided. They got to engage in a little bit of glass blowing activity as well. And I'm glad they took the liability, not me, on that one. So they do a lot of different things. They provide study clubs, they provide tutoring, they provide different project-based activities, and wonderful things. The other thing that we do and we strongly support are the fine arts at Redmond Junior High School. We have 2 sections of orchestra that continues to grow and do well and survive and do outstanding work in the state of Washington. We have a program for artists in residence, and the art that you're looking there is 18 feet wide. It was student developed under the direction of one of the professional artists. It was their design. And they sat down over a period of 3 months and designed this out and figured what will it take, what are the materials that we need, but it was all student driven. So to have that beautiful piece of artwork hanging on the wall and to have the compliments they receive is something that students are very, very proud of. We are one of the sites on the Redmond Sculpture Walk. So as you look through Redmond, there's a pamphlet that's produced where you can walk and see different sculpture throughout our community. And we have the bear in front of ours right now, which is an art piece that sits right out front of our school. And every 2 to 3 years, that piece will be changed out for another artist. The good thing about that is students get to sit on that panel and students get to decide. So they come in with all of the work, and Sherry Sanders comes in and does some work for us as well. We sit down as a committee with parents and students and decide what kind of art do we want to have in the front of our school as well. I have a dynamic PTSA, and it is characterized by high student and teacher support. They are active in every way, and their membership numbers are up. They are really something, so we really like them. They feed my staff so well. And they've learned that that's a key to our heart, so we would support them anywhere. And Lisa Schilt is our wonderful president for that. As we go forward and we close out the presentation, this is an interesting comment by Peter Drucker about the period of time that we're in, where the past does not explain the future anymore. And we're not so much afraid of change or in love with the old ways, but we're in between those places. So it's like being on a trapeze. So education is changing so rapidly, it is hard to know where we're going and what we're doing. And as we look at technology, we don't know where we're headed, but we know it's going to be a fun ride. Everybody has an opinion on how to fix education and what we should do with education and the crisis of education. But we know that we're going to have to change, and this is from Winston Churchill: to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. So for us at Redmond Junior High School, we have an onion patch strategy. We will think big, but we are going to stay close to our roots, and our roots are our mission statement of outstanding teaching, nurturing and guiding the learning of each student at Redmond Junior High School. Thank you for letting us present.
Thank you very much. Very interesting and informative, and thank you for sharing all the wonderful things going on at Redmond Junior High. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you, Prado and Sean, very much, and your staff, of course, for the work that they do. We've been talking quite a bit about middle-level education, and I think a lot of the things that you are doing in your school exemplify the things that we're interested in doing as an entire system. So thank you again for the incredible work that Redmond Junior High School is doing.
Great. Yes, so we have 2 National Merit Scholars here.
Yeah, so tonight, this is a fun time of the year for a lot of us because we get to celebrate the accomplishments of our students. And tonight is one of those nights where we have a couple of high school principals here who get to celebrate the accomplishments of some of their students through the National Merit Scholars Program. So I'd like to invite up Principal Brad Malloy, who would like to talk a little bit about one of his students and the National Merit Scholar. Brad?
Thank you, Dr. Kimball. To the school board and directors, I'd like to introduce to you Jeremy Housekeeper. Jeremy is one of our outstanding seniors at Lake Washington High School. And Jeremy is interested, actually first, before I tell you a little bit about Jeremy, you know, when we talk about kids and their success, a lot of this is also due to the family support that the student has. And Jeremy, I'd like you to take a moment and introduce your family to the board, and if they could stand up, that would be great. Oh, got to stand in front of the mic here, and there we go.
Here we go, testing. Okay, so on the far left is my sister Amy. And my mother Wendy, and my grandparents Daryl and Raymond Bergman.
Great. Thank you. Very nice job, Jeremy. And I know, having 2 kids, I know how the younger sister feels sometimes when we have to acknowledge how, you know, our brother is a pretty good guy. And so, Jeremy, thanks for doing that. Jeremy has attended Lake Washington High School and is currently involved in 3 advanced placement classes. He is a band student. He gets up actually before school and arrives to school before many of the staff do, because he's also in before school jazz band, and he's also involved in marketing. He plans to attend the University of Washington. One of the areas of interest is economics, but something tells me that whatever Jeremy decides to pursue, he's going to be very successful at it. He's a very unassuming young man. I think he's humble in his ability to achieve, and though he looks as if it comes easy, I'm sure there's hours and hours of work that goes into it. So Jeremy, I'd like to congratulate you on your accomplishments and the scholarship that you're going to win, and we're going to miss you at Lake Washington High School, and I hope you come back and visit us.
Thank you, and congratulations. The National Merit Scholar Program is really for the elite. Students qualify through their test scores. I think it's the PSAT, is that right, Tracy? Yes, PSAT scores. And it's reserved for a very small percentage of students in the country. So again, congratulations. We're very, very proud of the work that you've done. I'd also like to introduce Greg Schellenberg, who is the principal of Eastlake High School, who'd like to talk to us about one of his students.
Well, good evening and happy Teachers Appreciation Week to everybody. It is my privilege to introduce and give recognition to Austin Stampkij, and I'd like you to also introduce your parents with you.
In front of the mic, please, Austin. There we go. Great.
Hello. All right. My mom, Ishar Lach, and my dad, Harris Amkange.
Coming in new to the Lake Washington District, I've learned quite a lot about the student profile and the roadmap to student success. And for certain, if you take that profile and you open it up and you look at the skills and attributes that we want our students to do to be successful, I think you could put Austin's picture there as an example of what we want our students to aspire to be. He's been determined, he's been committed, he's been humble and unassuming. He's challenged himself at every moment. He's a bit of a Renaissance man, playing the cello and 4 advanced placement classes and all of it with a very unassuming demeanor, and just a pleasure to have around. One of my memories of Austin will be that we connect every Wednesday morning when he comes and drops off his kendo equipment in my office, so it's a safe place to keep that for the entire day. So similar to what Mr. Malloy said, we'll certainly miss you at Eastlake, but look forward to all the great things that we're going to be hearing about you at Stanford. So congratulations.
Thank you again, and congratulations to Austin and your family for such a great set of accomplishments.
And in addition to these 2 fine young gentlemen that were here this evening, we had 3 other National Merit Scholars that were unable to join us, but I'd like to announce this. Hopefully maybe families listening at home and will hear them be recognized. They're all 3 from Redmond High School, and Brianna Gaylor, Samuel Keller, and Catherine Norton. And again, all of them, I'm just seeing if there's any other notes here about them. So we'll also receive the scholarships and the recognition. So we think that's really great to have that many in our district. It's a lot of work, and it's always nice to see young people's academic work recognized. And so proud of all of you. So congratulations. Okay, we had an introduction to what our proclamations are coming up. We have 2 events this week of recognition of employees in our district. First is to teachers. This is National Teacher Day, and we celebrate National Teachers Week this week. So I would like to read a proclamation from the board to them. And whereas teachers make public schools great, and whereas teachers challenge students to open their minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and whereas teachers continue to influence us long after our school days are only memories. Therefore, we, the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, May 4th, 2010 as National Teacher Day in the Lake Washington School Districts. So those of you in the audience and those at home, please remember that this week when you go into your schools to go in and say a special thank you to those teachers. They mean a lot to your students, and they certainly mean a lot to all of us. In addition to being National Teachers Day, it also is School Nurse Day, and another group of people who are important to our students and staff. So I'd like to read a proclamation for them. Whereas all students have a right to have their health needs safely met while in a school setting, and whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by developing and providing programs and leadership, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make positive difference for children every day. Therefore, we, the members of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 12th, 2010, as School Nurse Day in the Lake Washington School District. So, wonderful groups of people, and our students all benefit from all of them. So, our next section is public comment, and I don't see Byron, do I? Okay. Our president from the Lake Washington Schools Foundation was going to do a report on the luncheon, so I'm just going to, if he pops in, he's running between meetings, I'll have him do that. Otherwise, we'll do something towards the end of the meeting in board comments. Consent agenda time. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So Doug, then Nancy. You guys have switched hats today. Chip, will you poll the board, please?
Chris?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes?
Doug?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And donations?
And do you want to excuse the guests?
We got a few
Yes.
students.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. I was going to, do you want to do the donations piece of
Sure,
this first? And then
that's
we'll
great.
take a 2-minute break to let them go?
As is typically our tradition, even though they're in the consent agenda, we'd like to highlight the donations that our community and partners provide for the school district. This time we have $194,800 in donations, obviously a large set of donations. $135,305 from Dell Computer Corporation to the Lake Washington School District for providing netbooks, carts, projections, printers, and whiteboards and servers for a set of pilot projects across the district. $24,500 from Hewlett-Packard to Lake Washington School District for netbooks, also part of that pilot project across the district. $2,000 from the McAuliffe PTSA to McAuliffe Elementary School for reimbursement for supplemental school production material and PTSA supplies. $1,006 from the Explorer Parent Association to Explorer Community School for a half-time teacher stipend for outdoor education. $5,034 from the Evergreen Junior High School PTSA to Evergreen Junior High School to purchase student planners. $3,000 from the Kirkland Rotary Foundation to John Muir Elementary School to support the Reading Buddies program and to purchase books. $2,754 from the Einstein PTSA to Einstein Elementary School to support field trips and the Nature Vision program. $5,500 from the International Community School PTSA to International Community School to support their teacher training during the summer of 2010. $1,500 from John Muir Elementary PTA to Muir Elementary School to purchase a memorial bench in honor of Sally Horton. $6,200 from the Alcott Elementary PTSA to Alcott Elementary for the purchase of outdoor tables. A $1,500 donation from the Juanita Rebels Booster Club to Juanita High School to provide participation fees for their athletes. and a $6,500 donation from the Bell PTSA to Bell Elementary School to support field trips and their math enrichment program, again for a total of $194,800 in donations this particular meeting.
And again, thank you not only to all our PTAs, but all the other those organizations that contribute to the schools. And this was a large number today for us to have, so thank you. In this day and age with the economy the way it is, it's amazing that we're able to still have the support that we have from our community. Those of you who need to leave, students, if you would like to go home to do homework, you don't have to feel like you need to stay with us. We love having you, so we're not chasing you out the door, but we certainly understand if you need to get home and do some other things. And again, thank you for coming this evening. Give them a couple of minutes. There's not very many of them that need to wander out the door. We'll let our math folks get set up and ready to roll in the meantime. Yeah, I think they look like they're about ready.
Next on the agenda, in the non-consent agenda item, Jackie, is an update on our district textbook adoption, elementary mathematics. This is an interesting day for us in Lake Washington School District. Mathematics, elementary mathematics in particular, has been a controversial item both in the state and the country for the better part of 5 years. And we certainly have had our fair amount of testimony on all sides of the mathematics issue, and we've taken that testimony seriously. 2 years ago, we commissioned a group of our staff in collaboration with Matt Montebianco, who directed these efforts, to conduct a process whereby we would take a great deal of time in research and community input, where we would listen to families and parents, where we would listen to our professional staff as we considered what kind of mathematics curriculum would we be implementing in our K-5 program. And through that process, I think we learned a lot. We learned a lot about how do we take and digest community input and feedback productively. We learned about how do we take an issue that is controversial and bring people together in a way where we can talk about those issues that are difficult to look at and bring people together. And we also learned a lot about what we think is best for kids as it relates to curriculum, as it relates to assessment, and as it relates to help that can be provided for students at home. In all of that, we have a team that is going to reflect for you both the process they went through and a recommendation that they will be making as it relates to mathematics for the next decade or so inside of this school district. The thing that I'm most proud of is this, not just the product that they are going to be recommending, but the process they use, because what we learned from our mathematics adoption nearly a decade ago is that irregardless of the materials we select, if we do not have consensus and commitment around the implementation of that curriculum, the curriculum becomes irrelevant. And what this team of 43 professionals represents is 100% consensus on the selection of that curriculum, which gives us an indicator of our ability to implement with fidelity, which is the most important part of what we're going to do. So I'd like to introduce Matt Montebianco, who led this process, and his team of folks that are going to be introducing you to the elementary math curriculum and the process and the product that we'll be asking you for approval on in a couple of weeks. Matt.
Thank you, Dr. Kimball and board members. It is an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. It's a night I've been looking forward to for at least 5 years. It's exciting to be here and to be here with colleagues and with other members of the committee who I would like to introduce to you briefly. We have some distinguished subcommittee members who are giving up part of their evening to come out and support their teacher presenters who are teaching tonight. I'm going to ask them to stand and just kind of be recognized as I introduce them, and just go ahead and stay standing. I'd like to start, first of all, on the end with Mary Banis. Mary is a third grade teacher at Ben Rush Elementary School. When we exited at our last meeting, Mary turned to the group and said, "I am a better teacher as a result of this experience." What a testament to say. Sitting next to her is Dylan Fornia. Dylan is a teacher at Dickinson Elementary. Dylan teaches third grade as well. Dylan likewise said similarly as people were exiting, "I have learned so much through this process, and it's great to have him here this evening." Sitting next to him is Robin Miller from Franklin Elementary, who we're glad to have here tonight. Robin was unable to pilot the program for reasons that are sort of beyond her control in terms of what level she's teaching and the people who are teaching math in her school. But when she said to me, "I am so bummed I can't teach this curriculum," that said it all. So it's great to have Robin with us. Sue Ann Sullivan is the principal of Robert Frost Elementary School. Sue Ann is someone I lean on along with the other principals for advice, consultation. She's never one to withhold what she thinks is going to help make it better, and I mean that sincerely, as always helping and looking out for the good of all. Sitting next to her is Monica Enquist. Monica is from one of our choice schools, Discovery Sandburg, and she teaches 5-6. Monica was the 5th grade I who also had the 6th grade I in the transition to what students will transition out of Envision. And her critical eye came in handy as we went through the pilot for both of them. Sitting in the front, whose son was honored, is Shar Luck. Shar is also one of our very bright teachers who happens to be teaching 1st grade at Carson Elementary. Again, one of the things I appreciate about Shar is her incisive wit, her critical eye. Nothing gets by her, and it's been helpful to have that. Sitting behind them, and I'm going to have them go ahead and sit so we can see the next group coming up, we have Linda Hughes, who is the principal of Lakeview Elementary. Linda plays the calming, let's make sure we hear all perspectives role, and she's served that for 2 years on the committee. Next to her is someone who plays many hats, Paul Luzak. Paul causes humor, but Paul does another role. Paul is my Italian consigliere, the counsel who will come up to me and whisper in my ear, "I think if you do this, it will move the process a little further." He's played that role for 2 years, and it's been extremely beneficial and thankful. Next to him is Ellen Challenger, who's not a member of the committee, but a member of the Instructional Materials Committee. And Ellen reviewed the materials independent of our work, also was present last Thursday when the Committee on IMC also unanimously recommended the Envision program to move forward. So I just want to take a minute to thank them, and I'm going to thank these people in a minute if you just give them an applause. Exactly 1 week ago to this very day in this very room, the Elementary Math Adoption Committee met here and reached a unanimous consensus for the program that you're going to hear about this evening, Envision Math. It has been a privilege to chair this committee for the past 2 years, for I've had the good fortune of working with these diverse people who you've just met and many others who are unable to be here this evening. Over the course of my career, I have had the privilege of having some key moments stand out, ones that I call those memorable experiences, just like going through school, only they're being an administrator. This is one of those key memorable experiences that I know will remain in my memory for the rest of my lifetime. What has contributed to this experience are the incredible people who have participated in, discussed, sometimes argued, debated, and yet able to come to unanimous consensus, as I said 1 week ago tonight. Tonight you're going to hear the process we went through their eyes. You're going to hear about the Envision program. You're going to have the great benefit of seeing it demoed, both digitally and in print this evening, and then we're going to take questions from you, as I'm sure that you're going to have some, and we'll answer the best we can. So now I'd like to introduce the 3 presenters. We have Marguerite Muscat, who's a 1-2 Quest teacher at Redmond Elementary. Marguerite's in the red. She's going to tell you about the process. And then the 2 people who will tell you about the materials and the program itself are Susie Allison, who's teaching 1st grade at Keller, and Kathy Marshall, who's teaching a 2-3 at Juanita Elementary. Marguerite?
Okay, thank you. Will this go on? Yeah, thanks. Oh, and I don't have to talk into this. Good evening, and thank you very much for having us here. And also thank you on behalf of I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the process that Dr. Kimball actually began with. But I'm briefly going to explain the 2-year process that we went through on behalf of the whole committee to pick a new math curriculum. Our timeline 2 years ago from the fall of 2008 to the spring of 2009, as Dr. Kimball said, the committee was established. We had 43 members with a wide range of teaching experience and also a wide range of styles. We had teachers from every elementary school, and we had 5 district programs represented. We had the preschool program, ELL, safety net, English, special education, and then we had the gifted accelerated program as well. We had 6 elementary principals and 3 district level administrators. Our committee work in the fall and through the spring of last year was to review, and what we did review that year was the research and the best practices around math instruction. We looked at national and state reports extensively, and again, we looked very extensively at Washington State's new math standards. We created an evaluation tool in our first year to review all the available math programs, and we set up criteria for our selection. And those included how the materials supported best practices in teaching and learning mathematics. We looked at strands of mathematical proficiency. We looked at the organization and design of the programs, as well as how the resources supported the state standards. I wanted to include this, as I understand many of you are aware of the strands of mathematical proficiency, but it was quite key in our process, and so I just thought I'd bring it up again. And the strands, again, are the conceptual understanding, which enables students really to learn new ideas based on prior information. It's the procedural fluency, the ability to carry out procedures accurately and efficiently. It's the strategic competence, which really allows them to formulate and represent and then solve problems. It's adaptive reasoning, so when there's problem solving, they're able to think logically, they're able to reflect on their problem solving, to explain, to justify their work, and then productive disposition, and that is the inclination to see math as useful and worthwhile and to feel that you can be successful at it. So these strands, as you know, are all interwoven and a really critical part of our work. This past year, we used the rubrics that we had designed to evaluate 11 programs, and we narrowed the finalists to 4. We then sought parent input on these 4 finalists. So 4 meetings were held throughout the district. We also allowed parents to review curriculum online, in this case, and then here at the district office. Following that, they were able to complete a survey. And with this input, as well as our rubrics, we then narrowed the choice to 2 programs to pilot in the last couple of months. We piloted 2 programs for about 3 weeks each. I think there was in almost every elementary school we had them piloted. And then we're also able to include parents again in a survey from the pilots in the schools. This spring, we then used an evidence-based approach to recommend one of the finalists for adoption. We again looked at these filters, the strands of mathematical proficiency, to make sure for program balance. We looked at the organization and design of each of the programs. We looked at the math standards alignment, the quality of digital resources, the parent input surveys, and then we looked again at the state reports and recommendations. And as Matt said, we voted unanimously to recommend the Envision math curriculum. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to the next 2 who are going to show you hands-on what it looks like.
So Susie's going to handle the technology, and I'm also known as Vanna tonight.
So what we want to do tonight is give you a little insight into what led us to this unanimous decision to hopefully open your eyes to see the many features of this curriculum, the conceptual understanding, the standard algorithms, the problem solving, and then the technology that's woven so beautifully into this program that really led us to this decision and brought Envision right to the top of our list every time. So what I've done here is I've opened up my teacher view of Envision online. Every teacher in our district will receive a teacher login where they have access to building their own tests. They can view their teacher edition, different quizzes. They can also view worksheets. When I'm opening this, I'll have Kathy show you the actual print version that teachers can use as well. So the program is laid out in 2 different topics. Each grade level has a certain amount of topics, and the topics are bound together the same as they would be in every different grade. Each grade has a certain number, and each topic is color-coded in our beautiful travel pack that we have over here. Measurement, for example, is orange. It's going to be an orange program in kindergarten. It's orange in 5th grade. If Kathy can hold up her teacher guide, she can show you what these topics look like. They're very easy to transport around, but should a teacher choose not to want to transport this around, they have access to everything online, which is so wonderful for this day and age. The beauty of Envision Online is how user-friendly it is. It navigates beautifully, it's easy to figure out, it's intuitive, it's very difficult to get lost. I've only spent a few weeks with this program and I already feel very confident to use it online, confident enough to come and share it with you. So what I'm opening for you now is the teacher edition of a standard 1st grade math lesson. Kathy, while this is loading, why don't you take them through the skill trace?
Sure. One of the things that we particularly loved about this program was that it starts off with math background for teachers. It's always good for all of us to do a little review before we start something, but we know how often teachers are suddenly asked to change to a new grade level. And so the math background ensures that the students will be getting the information in a concise and easily presented way that is successful. I watched the success in my classroom. We have the big idea, we have the essential understandings, and these are going to be the same whether it's in the teacher's guide for the textbook, which is 3rd grade and up, or if it's the teacher's guide for the little children, or if it's the teacher's guide that's online. In this particular one, it's working with adding and subtracting with 10s and 1s for 1st graders. It's at the end of one of their final topics for the year, and it talks with moving toward traditional algorithms and working with the concept of the 10s and 1s models.
One of the next great features of this program is how it differentiates instruction. Every topic has different lesson ideas, ways for you to target your students who are ELL, who are special needs, students who are below grade level or advanced. It gives the teacher step-by-step instructions, so we're not having to pull different ideas and supplement on our own. The program is giving us a great idea, great models for what we need to do with our students.
What we found when we were using the material with the children was that it was so simple to do a formative evaluation every day. As you are working with the children, watching them with their manipulatives, guiding them through the concepts that you were working on for that day, you very quickly could look around and see what was needed for that child to be successful. And so in this program, I happen to have had 1st graders, ELL students, and 2nd graders that I was working on with the pilot. So there was a section for ELL strategies, for children with special needs, for children who are functioning between grade level and a year below grade level, and for those advanced or gifted students. So there's always a direction that each child can go so that they're working at the level that's appropriate for them at that time.
Another key feature of every topic is the built-in language of mathematics. We all know that vocabulary is so important nowadays in understanding how mathematics work, and this program beautifully weaves in vocabulary. It's an integral part of every single lesson that the students do. They're reminded of the vocabulary. The vocabulary is discussed often. And it gives it to the teachers, so the teachers aren't having to rush back and try to figure out what does this word mean, how is it best to be explained to students. They can see it very easily in their teacher guide, and also if they pull their teacher guide up online, how they can weave this vocabulary into their everyday teaching.
So in this particular first grade topic, which I said comes at the end of the quarter or end of the year, you have vocabulary to review, you have the new word regroup, which is what you're focusing on in this particular topic. You have vocabulary activities. You have correlation with reading. So you're looking at comprehension strategies such as explaining inferences from text, such as determining important ideas, cause and effect, making predictions, and drawing conclusions. You're also working on the written and oral language in math when you have an explanation area so that children can explain their thinking. It's not just rote.
We'll move from here into a standard lesson, so I'm going to open up lesson 20-4, adding to a 2-digit number. The important part to understand with Envision is that even though I'm showing you a first grade lesson, this lesson is laid out the exact same way as a 4th or 5th grade lesson would be laid out. I've even taken some time to go through the 4th grade manual, and it truly is laid out the exact same. As a first grade teacher, I can open up their manual, know exactly what I'm supposed to be teaching, and feel completely comfortable teaching it. I could change grade levels at a moment's notice, and math would not be the subject I would be most concerned about because the program is so consistent. So as we walk you through the 4 components of a lesson, understand that though this is meant for first grade 7-year-old eyes, it is the same lesson flow as a 10-year-old would see in our district. When a teacher opens up their teacher manual, they have their quick and easy lesson overview that just reminds them of the things that they need to do. Objectives are a key part of teaching these days. We want to make sure the students know the objective for the lesson as well as the teacher, and it's written right there for us to see. Every day, this program has a spiral review of things that have happened previously in the lesson. The teacher has the option to photocopy this and run it off, or they can simply open it up on their online version, and the students can view it online. They can annotate over the desktop. They can use Active Votes to run this, or they can simply fill in the answers using their standard Promethean tools. Along with this is a review from the day before, there you are, of the problem of the day. The problem of the day comes specifically from the program. It tackles what we did the day before, brings it back in as the really great topic opener. Remember yesterday, this is what we did. Here's setting you up for today. This is a great problem, very hands-on for the students to do. Again, I can print this out and hand it to my students, or I can simply open it up here as a PDF and have us work on it on the board. After we've done that, we move into the interactive portion of our lesson. Lessons are always what we call in Envision hands-on, minds-on. It starts with a set the purpose, an engaging opening for the students, and it goes into a connection between what they've been learning and what they're about to learn. Each Envision lesson starts with a problem. Envision is big into beginning with problems because their research shows that students understand math better when they look at it from a problem-solving standpoint. So that's why they begin their lessons with a problem. Then they hit on the academic vocabulary, the model of the lesson, the whole group discussion, and then they have the students work in some sort of a small group interaction. The students use manipulatives or they use each other to work through that problem that the teacher posed and to gain better insight into the concept that is being developed for that day. For the older students, the 3rd through 5th grade, they're doing this as a pencil and paper or a work it through talking. For the K2, Kathy, can you hold up the packet? Every day, each lesson for K2 is run off of these very wonderful little packets that our students have come to love. They work on that first page as their interactive lesson with students. So that lesson, for example, the students were using playing cards to develop different subtraction problems, working it through with cubes, and then deciding, now that we've done this problem, 43 take away 8, did I have to regroup? And they have to decide as a team, did we regroup in this problem? really building that model all the way down at first grade.
And how often do you hear regrouping at the end of first grade? I mean, they really get it.
Kathy, do you want to take them through the next
Sure.
part?
The next part is the guided practice, and this is the daily work where you're looking at the formative evaluation that you're doing as the children are working through it. One of the things that I found with having the very diverse group I was working with in Math for our pilot was that some of my students that came in who appeared to be very, very top mathematical students, algorithms were just like that, could not explain what they were doing. They did not get it. When we were working on two-digit addition with regrouping, and so I had to go back with them and show them, this is what you do. You're using the manipulatives, going back through ones and tens again to solidify those foundational steps so that as they went into higher math, they did have that understanding. It wasn't just that they had memorized math facts and could do a problem very quickly. I mean, you want them to be there, but you want something below that to start them off successfully. So they work on the guided practice, then they have an independent practice to work on.
Kathy, I'm going to hop in really quickly because
Okay.
I want to show them the visual learning bridge. Every lesson has a visual learning bridge. At the top of the guided practice independent worksheet, there's a bridge along the top. That's to bridge the information they've learned and worked together to discover and talk about, and it's bridging that into a more standard pictorial representation of what the students are working on. Really brings it back to that level. One of the other key points that Envision has is that students learn better when they can see it in pictures, and we can take those pictures and put them into animations. So I'm going to turn on just a little bit of the animations that the students watch every single day as part of the lesson. So after they've done that interactive learning together, working on a different problem, we bring them back to the active board and we turn on this visual learning animation for them to learn even farther before they go on to that guided practice and independent work.
Let's use this place value mat to add 23 plus 8. When you use cubes to add 23 plus 8, what would you do first?
One of the great parts about these animations is the different learning styles that it hits. You watch students so engage the visual learners, and you also watch those auditory learners hearing that again, and you can choose to have it be your voice reading the questions, or you can choose to have the Envision voice. My students are a big fan of that voice.
They identify with their own grade level character a lot.
The questions for these that are posed are so meaningful and deep for the students. It really takes and drives it home what we're learning, what we're trying to discover, and what we're really working on. And it really does prove, do you understand this? Do you know how to do this? The students are engaged watching these. They're excited watching them. The second that little butterfly comes on, man, my kids are across the carpet, down and ready to get to the next bit of our math lesson. We are excited and ready to go. These have been such a great tool, yet another way for the students to learn math, another way to bring it back together. And they have these for every single lesson. We can do these for, or we can choose not to. It's a teacher preference, but they are incredible tools for us to have. Do you want to go to the problem solving?
Sure. The final page on the back of this particular lesson was 3 problems in problem solving. And at the bottom, they were asked to write a number sentence that uses regrouping. At the bottom, there's also an animated glossary that you could pull up and use. And I'm just going to read one of them to you. The art teacher had 45 paintbrushes. He bought 6 more. How many paintbrushes does the art teacher have now? One of the things that we do teach the children is to identify the information that they know. So they would underline the art teacher had 45 paintbrushes. He bought 6 more. Then we have them circle the question. How many paintbrushes does the art teacher have now? So you know that you're looking at the essential information that is in that particular problem. Going back to the problem of the day that Susie showed you, it talked about 2 boys are laughing, 5 girls are talking, 3 boys are singing. How many boys are there in all? What information did you not use to solve the problem? So making them think more deeply and being able to use all the tools that we've had so far.
Once you've finished your lesson, Envision has these great games set up for the students to play when they finish their lesson. They're in the teacher reproducibles for the teacher to simply photocopy before the lesson. There's an on-level game and an above-level game that you can photocopy for the kids. Envision, again going with the consistency, has a little packet of manipulatives that the kids have that they use as their game pieces. It's the same set of game pieces, K5. Although the games are different by grade level, the pieces aren't. So we're not having to re-explain a manipulative in 3rd grade. They've seen it since kindergarten. They know what to expect. Once you teach your kids how to play the game, then you're free to take those kids that need a little bit of reteach to bring them back. And right here you can see that we have an intervention lesson that I can do with my kids while my other students are not only occupied but meaningfully occupied. They're doing something that relates directly back to what we did today during our lesson. And I have that time to intervene with the kids that need it and to get them back on that learning track quickly.
And another, on the previous page,
Yeah. Well, why don't I just show really quickly that we do have leveled homework for all the kids, which is amazing. To be able to send home a lesson that is a reteach or a practice master or an enrichment for the kids that need to be able to go above and beyond with the lesson. And then to close out the lesson, we always have an assessment that Kathy will go over.
we have a quick check master. And one of the things that I really love about this program was the fact that when you are looking at the problem on the quick check master, there's also a 1 to 4 point rubric, which falls in line with our grading system here in the district. And there are sample answers to match each grade that you give a child. So the child is really learning on a frequent basis, how do I answer a problem so that I can get a 3 or a 4? Am I meeting standard? It's amazing. I can send these home to my parents and say, this is what we're working on. These are some samples. This is what we are looking for when your child gives a written answer. And they can look at their own child's work and begin to analyze what their children are doing. What are they getting? What are they missing? How can they refine that? How can they help that at home? So it's very much appreciated by our parents.
What I'm doing right now is logging in as one of my students. Nothing that comes up on her page is critical to her. I've loaded it all for her. But I wanted to show you what the parents will be seeing when they see this program coming home. Every student in our district, gotta love the graphics. So happy. Every student in our district will get a login, a student login personal to them, K5. They'll have this login. Teachers can go in and they can assign lessons to kids. If a student misses a day in school, I can go on my teacher site, assign them that lesson, and then they can watch it and complete it at home with their parents. Or if maybe they weren't as successful as I'd hoped them to be or as on task as I'd hoped them to be, I can also assign it and send it home for them to do. And the parents can see it right on their screen. That, we've got this, we need to do this, so we'll take a look, open it up, and we've got the video to watch just like I showed you. We've got a guided practice activity, and we've got a quiz to take at the end. I'll spare you watching it again. Also in this, parents have access to what we call Success Tracker. Students can take tests online, tests that Envision builds or tests that teachers build. I can choose to make a test based on standards that have been taught in Envision or a test built solely on items that they learned that align with the Washington State standards. Then I can look and see exactly which areas, which standards are my students not at. What do I need to reteach them? And the parents can track their scores and be able to decide where their students at, what do they need, how can they help at home. It really gives parents a big teaching edge at home. Parents can access this to-do list and see tests that their children need to take. They can explore the students' different games that we have online. There's hundreds of different math games that Envision has online. And most importantly, they can see the textbook online. They can see exactly what was being taught in class, what did they learn, what do they need to do at home. And they also have these great tools for math. Just like the teacher side, it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. Just takes a second to quickly orientate yourself with the program.
I think one of the other things that is particularly helpful at the end of each topic is the fact that there are two forms of the summative assessment. You have a basic multiple choice, which can then go on your active board and be used with your active votes very quickly. And then you have an alternative form in which the children work independently. At the end of both of those, there is an item analysis and diagnosis for intervention. So if I have a child who is having difficulty, or a group of children that I see, they're just not getting this particular concept or this particular test question, I know exactly where to go back in, pull out what I need, and we're ready to go instead of having to create it yourself.
This really is a beautiful program, and we are proud of the work we've done and proud of where we came, and it is no wonder to us that we unanimously picked this, and we thank you for letting us bring it to you tonight. Thank you.
We wish you could have been in our rooms having fun with us.
I was all set to keep watching the elephant. Before we have the board ask any questions that you'd like to ask, I would like to, on behalf of the board, thank you all for, 2 years is a long time to devote to the number of hours and meetings and information that you have gone through and activities and parent input. So my hat's off to all of you, and appreciate very much the time that you've spent to bring a wonderful program to the students in this district. So thank you very much. So now we'll have questions.
I have just one quick one.
Okay, Nancy?
You mentioned this is, if the kids don't have computers at home, do you have very many kids who don't? Because you're talking about homework being online and review being online.
Review and homework is online, so it is dependent somewhat for those added features, but for the basic features of it, it's only necessary that the students be in school. That would only be if the parents wanted to take it above and beyond at home.
And Nancy, our data shows that less than 10% of our students don't have computers at home. Those that don't, we're providing computers for those kids. The biggest issue is those families often don't have internet access.
Internet, right.
I know that John is continuing to work with some of our local cable providers around trying to provide that kind of access. So I'm hoping in the next year he might have something to bring to us, but that is an ongoing issue, and I know John's actively working on that.
Can they go to the library and access the
Absolutely.
same thing?
Yeah, I believe in my classroom I have maybe one that doesn't have computer access but has relatives that do that live nearby.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's mine.
It's a good question. It's an important piece.
But there,
Ravi, you had some?
there's a textbook, right? Like if you don't have a computer with internet access,
You have a textbook.
right? And the textbook, is it? Can you use it as a learning tool, a reference tool, both? I know in the past we've had some issues around, people making enough, or there being enough in the textbook to actually learn things directly from it, like if you weren't in class.
Just like with the K2 packets that we showed you, there's, for the older kids 3 through 5, they have their visual learning bridge up here, which corresponds with the lesson that they can watch online. And then they have a guided practice which says, do you know how, where the students have to prove to someone orally that they know how to do this, and do you understand? Then they have their independent practice and then their problem solving. It's really a well laid out textbook, and it does correlate exactly to what they were doing with the K2 packets.
Okay, so a parent could look at this,
I believe-
decipher
Yes.
what students are learning from
Yes.
it.
And with the online portion of it, there's a glossary for parents that goes in Spanish and English. So parents could, if they had a term that they weren't familiar with, they could click on that glossary, read and understand what that term is. And there's also e-tools online that the parents can click on so that they can actually pull up a hexagon and work with it for fractions if they wanted to.
Okay. I have more questions. I don't know if anyone else wants to take a turn, though.
I'm moving the rest of Katie out of your system.
Okay. I was doing the same, so this might be trouble. All right.
Okay.
There's probably duplicates
Okay.
here. Good. All right.
Okay.
Can you compare and contrast to investigations, to the other choices, the finalists that you were looking at, and to, I guess, to say a more traditional curriculum like Saxon or whatnot?
So how many curriculums do you want to compare it to?
Let's say 3 investigations, the next choice, and Saxon. I don't need like every last detail, but just
Okay, so
major points.
investigations is the current one, and then we have
Yeah.
Math Connects, as you know, and
Right.
then Envision. And I think, I mean, they're all wonderful programs, and in fact, I've had my kids do surveys on them, and they're excited about all of them. I think for us as a committee, we saw Envision, and you saw a lot of it tonight, as more encompassing a number of different learning styles. We thought it brought the conceptual part of the math then into the actual doing algorithms and learning, straight on what that meant. We saw that also in Math Connects. We saw, though, a little bit of a disconnect with addressing a lot of different learning styles. We actually fell short a little bit on the conceptual part of it. Investigations, in contrast to it, there's a lot of things you could say about that. I mean, I think in rolling out a new curriculum that has buy-in from all teachers, which hadn't happened with investigation, this puts us all on the same page. I think the other curriculums have that continuity as well, but so it's a little bit
Let me
harder.
simplify the investigations
Thank
one,
you.
I guess, because it's a big...
Yeah,
Is there anything you'd say is better about investigations?
better than Envision.
Envision, yeah.
I have really enjoyed, and I know my students have, I would say, sort of the inquiry-based part of investigations. I know that's been a source of frustration for some, maybe, but I think that is part now also of Envision as far as the problem-solving, the hands-on part of it. So.
And well, people who liked the inquiry-based thing, right, that seems to be sort of there a bit in terms of I forget, you had like 10 or 15 minutes where it's like, okay, here's the thing we're trying to do with the manipulatives. Like, is that
enough, you're saying?
Yeah.
I think what it does is it has also, as they talked about before, the game part of it and the more hands-on part of it as well. And I think it offers additional hands-on investigations as well. So there is probably a little less than investigations. But I think, what we were looking for was a program that met sort of a little bit more in the middle.
Right.
And that's what we heard, I think, from constituents and from our...
Sure, yeah. What about the pacing? I mean, I know that some people, another complaint I heard about investigations was that it sort of, I mean, some people felt at least it kind of drags on with, okay, we're still using these manipulatives, when are we getting to the punchline? Like, is this, are the units faster here, or is it the same amount of time, just different activities throughout, or?
I think what I found here is because you're coming right to the algorithm right away within each topic or lesson that you're doing. In addition to that, though, I think the depth of the lessons in Envision is also a real benefit for the kids, and maybe they're seeing more the punchline faster than some may have seen in the investigations. Again, I was very impressed by the depth of what we were going into in a relatively short amount of time, but the kids had the ability to practice over and over again, and again, then you could sort out, as you saw, those that needed maybe less practice and could move on to something else. So.
Okay, what about the length of time you spend on a unit, or is that something to be worked out later, like compared to investigations? Like,
Right, do we have a sequencing, we'll have a sequence guide for the lesson. I guess as we do now, we would have that. So I don't know how it exactly would look at this
Answer.
point. We don't have it currently,
Okay.
no, right.
Let's
okay.
tag team Marguerite with somebody else from the group.
Sure, yeah, I don't mean to just grill one
Give them
person.
their perspective.
See what happens when you're short. You got to adjust everything. I would like to say a couple of things because I've taught investigations for several years. I am not a natural mathematician, as some people are. Give me writing, reading, social studies, I'm outstanding. But math, it's always been a struggle. It was a struggle, when the minute I hit story problems. So working with the investigations program, I found myself becoming a learner. And I always felt like I struggled as a learner, even though I was the teacher. And we were looking for a program that would give every teacher the confidence to be able to teach your children well. And I think that that's one of the benefits of the Envision program. You were talking about the rate of progressing through the unit. There's a lesson per day, but it's not in stone. So the unit that I was on was actually an 8-day unit. I took 10 days to do it with my children. But at the end of that 10-day period, every child in my class could add with regrouping and understand what they were doing. So, investigations, sometimes you can't tell for sure what they really understand and what they don't. One of the concerns that we did have with Connex, although we saw many good things about that program, was that frankly there were some mistakes. We did not find that at all in investigations, and we didn't really want to deal with mistakes.
Mistakes in the actual curriculum, you mean?
It was in the assessment pieces.
Oh, wow.
And Saxon math was fairly one-dimensional, and we really did want the children to have the depth of understanding as well as the efficiency in handling the mathematical algorithms. So.
Okay. What about the issue of standard algorithms versus others? Does this teach more than one or only one, or does it depend on the unit?
It arrives at a standard algorithm. I would say that each topic would pretty much do that. There are multiple. There's the ability for a child to come up with their own way because they'll start by problem solving, right, on the sort of the page before the hands-on, and so there can be multiple ways for them to figure it out and to do their own. Their own kind of algorithm, I guess you would say. They do, however, I would say, arrive a little bit more quickly on then how to actually do the algorithm. The beauty, though, in it is that it really explains to them how and why the algorithm works the way it did. So I piloted multiplication, and I could see the kids, many in my class who could probably tell you all their multiplication tables, but, many lights going off to see how you set up a multiplication problem and what it means, how many are in a group and where. And so I would say, yeah.
So this is more about the standard algorithm, have it make sense, have kids understand it, rather than let's understand 5 different ways of 5 different algorithms of doing this, right?
Right, and again, I think
a kid might come up with others, but it's not really stressed in the curriculum.
Right, they're going to be led more to a more standard algorithm, I would say.
Okay. Let's see. So it also sounds like the reliance on communication is less than with investigations. Is that right? I mean, that was sort of another knock that I think some people made on it. That if a kid, say, is not a native English speaker, that like learning and participation might have been difficult. Like here, I guess there are some parts where you need to, I mean, in order to participate, like in group work, I guess there would be, like, my impression is that it's easier for kids who don't communicate that well. I just want to make sure this is true or not.
I have several English language learners in my classroom, and they were incredibly successful with this program because math is a universal language, and they were able to show what they were thinking using their manipulatives, maybe not actually being able to speak it as perfect English as we would hope them to eventually, but for this base level in first grade, they were able to show, I've taken this Tower of 10, I've deconstructed it, so yeah, I have regrouped, and they've been able to show that. And so it's been able to see that they have that understanding of what they're doing and being able to work with partners. And it's been a nice change for them to be able to have a partner to rely on with math and to be able to have that kind of safe person to be with, because it's so built-in partner work that it has been really great for my English language learners. And I've noticed in a lot of the lessons at the top, it gives a clue that this is a strategy to use with ELL students, or this is a great one for building vocabulary, different pieces on the program where you can see this will be great for my students who are struggling in this area.
Okay.
Could I add to that just a bit, too? I think that it was clearly expressed by the community, by all of our parents, the need to be able to have their child come home, and they, as a parent, understand what their child is doing in math. And I think that that is one of the benefits of this program. Susie mentioned the glossary. Our second graders had a glossary at the beginning. It's pictorial with the definition of the terminology that they would be finding in their math program. But also because the children could explain what they did, and often mine took home materials, worked on things at home, showing mom and dad what they could do, that the parents felt a sense of confidence in their own ability. And I think that's really important as a mom myself and a grandma myself, that you want to not feel in front of your child that you can't do something. So here a mom or a dad can sit and say, well, I can help you with your math. And it takes some of that stigma away from math that you may have encountered as a child yourself.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I think I have maybe one more question until I think of additional while Chris is talking.
And until I pull the hook. No, I'm teasing.
Right, yeah, I'm getting there.
I'm about to move you on to, yes.
Oh, good. See? All right. So how much supplemental material is there, for students to sort of practice and gain, I guess, computational fluencies is what you'd call it. I mean, I know there's the homework assignments, but are we still going to need extra stuff, or is this curriculum going to be it?
Well, it comes with some common supplemental materials as far as manipulatives that are used consistently throughout the program. So I think that when we have gone through and looked at it, it does not appear to be something that we're going to have to supplement with extensive materials from other places. It seems to be a pretty compact, user-friendly package that basically has what we need in it.
And okay, and there's enough. I don't know what there.
Yes.
I know there are games, but
there are games, but and there are cubes and there are little tiles. But it's not going to be something that the teachers are going to say, oh, what am I going to do with this? I have no closet space. Where am I going to store 32 boxes of manipulatives?
Right. So let's say that a student wants to go home we want them to go home and work on their multiplication tables. Is it extra stuff on the website, or what's the thing that they would do? Or is it just the manipulative?
Yeah, teachers can prepare, I believe, their own worksheets for the students to do that can be accessed online. They can also, there's lots of supplemental games that the students can do online. And in the program, at the back of every topic, there's extensions for the teacher to do. that the students can do to extend that lesson if they did want to take it to the next level. Things that go above and beyond first grade. I've seen one of them was taking them into the beginnings of division if they wish to take that repeated, that area that they were working on and move it into the division realm.
Let me take the question further. What I think Robbie's getting at is, are you going to need to go into other supplemental programs for students to learn things like their basic facts to recall?
Yeah, like we
That's
have the
what he's
stuff on
asking.
the
So will you
portal.
need- Can you answer that or respond to that? Will you need to go to other programs for that?
Well, when we started the pilot, we all jumped in at the place where our students would be now. So you didn't necessarily have the experience of starting from topic 1 and working your way through. But I know that with the work that I have seen, with what my children have done, they are going to be more eager to make use of, say, their math facts because it feels usable to them now. It's just not something you sit and memorize. I don't know that I'm answering your question.
I think my answer would be no. I don't believe you're going to need to go to a different program to take material to get them to learn those math facts.
Let me ask the question differently. So we, in our district, use, for example, accelerated math. We use some other electronic supplements. Is it fair to say that those supplements will be dissipated in use or even eliminated over time once this is adopted?
Right.
Well, I have a favorite supplemental math program that I like my kids to be involved with because it's a totally different format. It's just reinforcing what they already do now. It's an online program. And
Fast
do they
Math
need
or-
to, pardon me?
Fast math or something?
No.
Oh. All right.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been politically incorrect.
Sorry. Who knew?
So we
Right.
still haven't gotten an answer to the question.
I know. Okay, yes.
I do think that students will still be doing fast math and accelerated math, and I think that's okay. I mean, I think it's another side, sort of, I think it's a supplement, but it's not, I mean, I think that kids will get what they need from Envision. If you're asking for like accelerated things for kids to do, I think that you'll probably use some of those other things that are still out there. I think, we'll probably empty our shelves of a lot of old textbooks that we don't have in our rooms anymore, but some. So I think a lot of those will be gone and you'll be able to use this curriculum. But I don't think it would be fair to say that we still wouldn't be doing fast math or accelerated math.
Okay.
I think it's just a different perspective for kids. Like fast math, I mean, it's just it's just facts coming at them. That's not happening. And I mean, they're learning their facts, but they're not learning them in front of a computer, within a certain amount of time.
So, again, I'm going to ask it even slightly differently.
Okay.
So, while you wouldn't eliminate those, if we think that repetition is required around facts acquisition, as an example, is the use of fast math required in order to get our kids to the proficiency level, or is it really just something that is an interesting alternative?
I would have to say that I wouldn't feel comfortable enough answering it yet because I've only been through 3 weeks of the curriculum as far as doing the multiplication. I did do multiplication in my class, but I'd have to see it further out.
So
my
if I'm-
gut tells me that it might just be fun and interesting to
Right.
do, but I can't say that for sure.
Okay.
So if I'm a parent, let's say, and I ask my kid, hey, what's 6 times 8? And he doesn't know, right? And I think he should. So my inclination as a, person who's never taught math is, oh, well, we need some math worksheets here and, let's get going, right? Like, what's our answer?
I believe, and let me correct me if I'm wrong, Marguerite, from what I have heard in my experience, is that our answer is that there are materials in Envision that will help reinforce those facts. And each teacher also has the opportunity to use things like fast math and other things to do that. But that there are teacher-generated materials that come with it that they can provide. Is that fair?
Yeah, you can create your own worksheets if you have kids struggling and want them to keep practicing their 6 times tables. I could print up from Envision some worksheets that would give them that additional practice. That's what.
Would have to make them then? I mean, I thought we don't
I mean,
really...
they're part of the part of the Envision design.
So I think what I'm hearing is the point is that as opposed to going to my worksheet, fact sheet that I've had for 25 years,
Right.
it is all in this package, and if I need reinforcement in X, Y, Z, I can get it out of this package, and it is there. Is that fair?
Yes.
Saying you could add it.
You can.
Who's making this worksheet? Envision has it, or the teacher makes it?
Well, no, the teacher makes it from the Envision materials.
Right. Yeah, so in other words, if like Susie was talking about earlier, if you all of a sudden wanted to look at a certain strand of math and you saw that some of your students weren't really getting that, you could pull up on Envision, you can create your own test, you can even write your own questions, or they'll provide the questions. You say, here's what I need, here's the strand, I need more multiplication practice, and it'll, just create worksheets for you right there. It's pretty neat. We could show. We just were looking at it the other day. So, and you can align those to state standards if you want to, or our profile.
So you
It's all
make
right
it
here.
using Envision.
Well, yeah, but it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, let me try it. I think we're struggling maybe over the word invent
yeah,
and make.
I apologize.
Okay, so invent and make, like I've got to make up a worksheet. It's not a make up the worksheet. It's I'm going to select from what's already in Envision that I want a page of 6 times 6, or the 6 is facts. So that's the part that I'm, as a teacher, selecting and pulling out.
Okay.
I'm not sitting and creating a sheet of 6 times problems. That's where I think we're struggling the word invent.
Okay.
I'm going to move us
Yep.
to
All right.
to
Yep.
Doug
Good.
and then Chris.
Okay.
But also, we've got 2 weeks.
Correct.
And these are pretty specific questions that we're getting into now. So I think if you have some more that you think of when you're at home, and I'm not saying you're not going to ask questions, but
Just send them to me.
Just if you'll submit them to Chip, and we'll make sure that we get you answers if you think of some more things between now and
Great.
the end. But we're putting people out here on not so much the hot spot, but I mean, this is stuff that they're just beginning to learn about too. So, Doug?
I only wanted to echo what you said earlier, and that is voice my appreciation for all the work that's been done. I'm not going to second guess your work or your expertise in teaching this subject. So, again, thanks for providing your service to us and the work that you've done.
And Chris, you have some questions, I know.
I have only 5 questions left. Fortunately, Ravi covered a good handful. So one of the, and sorry, I'm just going to tip my hand on this and tip my hat on this, as it were. There were a lot of curricula. I have been through a lot of these curricula with a fine-tooth comb. I was involved in revising the state math standards. I've been following this very carefully. There were 2 right answers in my book, and you piloted both of them. My props to you. Apparently we can find consensus even where we may have come from a starting point where we thought the other side was crazy. That said, once you got down to the pilot, I was actually very pleased. I mean, at the end of the day, with 2 right answers to choose from, what matters to me is whether the teachers buy it. You're going to be the ones delivering this material. That's the important point. I don't have anything useful to say other than that's a good thing for us, that you found which one of these 2 works better for teachers. From my perspective, they were comparable curricula. Now, I'm going to ask a few hard questions, but I'm still resting on the fact that I think you got to the right answer. So first, we're at a point in the process where this is a curriculum that's very easily rearranged. It comes in very discrete units, and those units have been developed around national standards. So they've really tried to satisfy everybody. And so this is a question that's, first I understand that the publishers offered to rearrange these units to match our standards, to match what we intend to cover in each year. So the question is, do we drop any units? And the corollary of that is this a curriculum that's teachable in 180 days?
Those are two good questions. It's not our plan. I think the question came up earlier. It was from Ravi. Have we developed those sequencing calendars? And so let me take it back a step. We're going to take our state standards and our prioritized power standards, which are the state standards, and we're going to look and do an alignment to the curriculum and ensure that those topics, they average about 20 topics per grade, line up with those standards. Once we do that curriculum alignment, so it's literally aligning this standard goes here, here, and here, then we develop a sequencing calendar throughout the year. You heard one of our presenters, I believe it was Kathy, say, it may say in the book this takes 8 days, and our sequencing calendar may say this will take 8, but it may take you 10. So we build a flexibility to get to your second question, that the most important standards, we're not dropping standards, we're not saying, oh, the algorithm's not important. We're saying every one of those standards is taught to mastery over the course of a 180-day year, and we map that in what we call a sequencing calendar. That's work to be done in the fall, so we can have that for teachers next year. That's not been done yet.
Okay.
That also kind of encourages, Chris, I want to hit the other implied thing, that if I'm rearranging the units, it would be purposeful that the district as a whole has said, this needs to best probably occur here, with teacher input telling us why that would be rearranged, again aligned to the standard, as opposed to I individually as a teacher am deciding I'm not going to teach this topic because I don't like it.
All right, so, and we can expect the sequencing or the sort of mapping to our syllabus to be in place by September?
I'm hoping by October, and maybe sooner.
Great. The next question, our presenters are all, I think this is actually going to be a question for some of the audience members. How does this integrate with middle school? So the 6, 7, 8, how does this prepare you for algebra? Are our kids ready to run on that?
What I'd like to do, and it's partly not wanting to put her on the spot, but we weren't planning this. Monica teaches 5, 6. That was the lens she was using, was the transition to 6th grade. So Monica, I am putting you on the spot. If you want to answer it, you can. That would be best.
So I was actually able to pilot the materials with my 5th and 6th graders. And I actually did algebra with my 5th and 6th graders, and it blended really well. It worked for both 5th and 6th grade, and it covered the concepts beautifully. They loved learning algebra in a way that I never even imagined. So it was a really nice way of tackling algebra, to answer your question.
Okay. My third question, even in, this isn't actually for you.
Thanks.
My third question is, as with anything, I'm so deeply into this that there are still things that drive me crazy, even in the best of the best. And it's around the scoring rubric, where they do have a 4-point scoring rubric. And when you get 1 point for getting the right answer, that out of 4 points. To me, that's the point of math, is getting the right answer. So I would like to get more than 1 point. But what's really bothering me is the 3-point answer. Because the 3-point answer states that the student solves the problem correctly and provides a sufficient but brief explanation. I'd like to clarify that that's inadequate, because a brief explanation, for those of us who do math professionally, is the right answer. Anything longer is an English major. So I'm very curious about how the scoring rubrics are going to be applied.
Okay, I'm not sure. What rubric are you referring to?
Well, sorry, I'm just looking at page 14 of the
manual. Okay.
Manual. But it's really just something I wanted to put a shot across the bow. Even though it's good, it ain't perfect.
I'm going to suggest that you don't need to answer that, Matt.
Okay.
That's not really a question for tonight.
Yeah. Okay. However, there is a group that I'm concerned about in terms of differentiated instruction, and that is the ASD community. So for kids who are on the autism spectrum, have we got somebody who is teaching to those kids with an eye to how they respond to this curriculum?
We have many of the members of the committee who have students on the spectrum in their classes. I don't know whether you want to speak to that. You're welcome to. Did you want to?
I'll be honest.
I'll let you ask the question.
Well, my concern is really around that ASD kids frequently are first learners. The first way you teach them how to do something is the way that they will do it forevermore. And with the development of concepts, it may not be that they actually reach the efficient version. And so I'm wondering, is there accommodation for ASD kids that, if they're highly analytic and not highly verbal, Is there some accommodation in this curriculum that they can actually be taught to most effectively for them? They're not necessarily verbal learners. They're not necessarily oral learners. And this is, honestly, I don't expect you to give me an answer. It's
You know
a
what I'm doing,
rhetorical
Chris?
question. I just want
was
you to pay
about to
attention
turn
to
it to one of the presenters. I'm
Okay.
writing your question down. I think I'm going to give it some thought and work with the committee members to have a better, thoughtful answer as opposed to just knee-jerk, give it to you right now. So I've written it down.
Yeah. My final question is pretty simple, and it's for the panel. Are there pieces of the process? The process, to be honest, appears to have been a success. But are there pieces of the process that could be done better in terms of curriculum adoption broadly? Or, and I'm just going to ask the question explicitly, do you think that the way that parent input was involved here was effective, appropriate, and adequate? Are there things that might be done differently and or more effectively there?
Did you say you didn't want an answer tonight?
That's one where I'm interested in getting feedback from the panel
Teachers.
while I've got them on the
Sure.
hotspot.
So that's really the twofold. Could the process
Because I
have
pretty
been
much
done
know what I'll
better?
get from you eventually.
So could the process be done better and other ways to involve parents?
Are the teachers comfortable with how
Okay.
the parent input part of this was handled?
I'm going to ask a different question with that. Rather than put people on the spot tonight for an evaluation of the process, I think it would be important for the committee as a whole to evaluate the process and maybe submit to us an evaluation report on how it went, answering the questions about parent involvement, and help us to guide what we do for the future and future adoptions. And any recommendations that you'd make of things that could be better to streamline it, make it more inclusive, et cetera. I think that's easier than trying to have you come up now, and we don't have everybody here to hear from the entire group. So I'd like to have a full evaluation rather than just a couple pieces.
That's wise. I think that's wise.
Is that all right?
That's all right, but I would like to see individual statements on that, rather than just the summary consensus report.
Okay.
So some open-ended questions that we could see answers to. Thanks.
Okay.
Anything else, sir?
No. I'm
Nancy?
done.
I want to echo the thanks. This has been an incredible process. I appreciate the depth, the attention. I know that it's been a lot of work, and from what I'm hearing, it looks like we'll have a really good implementation, which we've seen enthusiasm before that kind of seemed to fizzle and sputter. So it looks really good from here. Looks fun. A lot more fun than my old version. So hopefully it's very targeted on what our kids need to do and know, which is what we've seen, despite the fact that everything is very fun today.
And again, the process is that we'll come back in 2 weeks to formally do the adoption, and anyone having any further questions will send them to Chip. I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening. I'm not sending you home to do homework, but you may do that anyway, probably. Catch up on your emails and get ready for your work day tomorrow and your students. So thanks again.
Thank you,
and Matt,
Jackie.
thank you very much for leading this committee.
Thank you.
You've done a stellar job.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
How long do you have?
That's up to you.
Do you all need a break before we move into the next batch of materials? Is everybody okay? All right, we'll just motor on.
Great, thanks, Jackie. Next in the non-consent agenda item is the Lake Washington Educational Support Professionals Collective Bargaining Agreement, and that is under tab 3 in your notebook. I wanted to highlight a couple of things about this agreement. As you know, it's been a contentious year in coming to this agreement. And I think one of the things that is most important about our learnings from this is that when we are dealing with bargaining agreements, agreeing to collaborative bargaining processes, which are interest-based, are in almost every case the most productive environments for us. It was after stepping back from, again, a rather contentious, difficult bargaining process, which had turned positional after working together for some time, that this interest-based process took hold, and actually a very productive outcome was reached. As important as the contract itself, where I think both sides, management and the association, made compromises, was the relationship building that was developed during the last part of this, because some relationship fracture had occurred over the past year. And so I'm pleased to bring this to you as both obviously a contract which we needed to have in place for very important employees in our organization, but also as a symbolic measure of, even in the most difficult circumstances, what can be accomplished when we come to the table, willing to work collaboratively and willing to stand from the balcony, as Bill Urey would say, and look at the other person's view as we're coming together around difficult issues. So we are seeking approval from the board on the Lake Washington Educational Support Professional contract, their collective bargaining agreement for 2009 to 2012.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second. Doug and Nancy.
And I'd just like to echo what Chip said. And I also want to give kudos to our administrative team that worked in the trenches for a long time to get this agreement in place. And I also appreciate, this was a collective bargaining process, so I appreciate the efforts of both sides. And I know it was a lot of work, and it's an important group of employees, a vital group of employees to our functioning. And so I appreciate, again, all the work, and understand what it meant to both sides.
And I'll just echo what Doug said. I think that's, thank you to all parties for agreeing to stick with it and work back at the table and getting it resolved.
I'd just like to say congratulations, and also thank you for the format that we got it in. If we've done it in the past, I haven't remembered it, but this made it easy to go through and catch the changes, because after you've seen one of these every 3 years, this was helpful.
Yeah, I agree. It was very well, easy to read and follow the changes, so I appreciate that as well. Okay, any other comments?
I'm very glad to get this over with and move on. I know everyone had to, I'm sure no one got exactly what they want, but, it's behind us, and I think we have a fair agreement, and let's all move forward and on with life and school.
Sounds like a plan. So this is the final stage of this bargaining. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Great, thanks.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I would also like to thank Janine Fogard and Pat Fowler-Fung and Ruth Clark and Chemo Spray for their work on the bargaining team. Who did I forget? Oh, Gloria Heyer, too. She was not at the last meeting because she had an emergency she was attending to. So when I was involved, she didn't happen to be in the room. Okay. So coming around, the next item on the agenda is the discussion of the Washington's Race to the Top application and agreements that local education agencies, Lake Washington School District, have been asked to sign on to. So a little bit of context. The federal government has allocated $3.4 billion to Race to the Top applications through the U.S. Department of Ed, and these are competitive grants. As you know, 2 grants have already been awarded to 2 states, Tennessee and Delaware. And there's an additional round of Race to the Top funding that is available, and Washington State is applying for that funding. The Washington State grant application gains more points if districts have signed on and made agreements around what they are willing to do and not do if we indeed are funded. And that is true of superintendents, school boards, and teacher association that will or will not sign on to this grant application. If awarded, Lake Washington could receive a little over $500,000 a year for 4 years for a total of $2 million if indeed the state application is awarded a grant. In order to agree, there are some things that we need to commit to. The good news is that many of these things are things that we are already doing or are committed to in state law through two bills that were passed, one a year ago through the Basic Education Reform Work, and one more recently in this last legislative session where a bill was passed specifically to look at some of the areas in anticipation of the Race to Top grant application. So some of those things include a commitment to using our Common Core standards, increasing our use of data and assessments, using strategies to use data to make informed decisions, looking at our principal and teacher evaluation system. Now that one in particular gets quite a bit of attention from teachers unions and principal associations, et cetera. But when you look a little bit deeper at the work that was passed by the legislature, the things that are outlined in the teacher evaluation work and the principal evaluation work are both things, again, that we are already doing. There's also indicators around looking at an area of focus, STEM, academic rigor, achievement gap, low-performing schools. Those are all areas, and as you know, we are particularly interested in academic rigor to enhance college readiness, and we're also interested in STEM. We've been asked to sign this application. I'm intending on signing the application unless the board urges me not to. And the board, of course, can also sign on or choose to remain silent on the state application. There was a discussion with LWEA. The WEA is relegating the decision around signing or not signing to the local units. Our LWA did make a presentation to their building representatives. There were some concerns raised by the building reps around the application, and I think part of it had to do more with a philosophical concerns around the competitiveness of federal dollars and the direction that the Obama administration under the leadership of Arne Duncan is taking as it relates to those dollars. That's where we are. I do think that if we don't sign and the state is allocated a grant, running the risk of not generating $2 million for our district for things that we are already doing is probably not in our best interest, and so I'm not recommending that we don't sign, even though there may very well be philosophical differences and philosophical issues with some of the program elements that the federal government is putting into place.
And I just wanted to add to that. I mean, what the decision that you're voicing tonight is basically, in my opinion, why we hire you is to make those judgment calls. I would have to say, though, that I am, again, speaking for myself, I'm not happy with the direction that this administration, not our administration, but the federal administration, is going with education. I think that they have made the assumption that public education in most communities has failed, and that I think they're thinking in terms of big city school systems, Chicago, Washington, D.C., places like that that have had serious problems. But in high-performance suburban communities like this one and others throughout the country, we're not failing. As evidenced, well, tonight our National Merit Scholars demonstrate that, and all the other kinds of performance measures that we are doing a pretty good job in assembling. So that bothers me. And the other thing is, one of the things that we value in this district is the ability of parents and educators to provide choice options that we direct and we support. And again, this administration and the past federal administration seem to have this worship of the holy charter school, which, in my opinion, is not a sustainable model of education, and is not something that I particularly want forced down my throat. And I see this effort, this race to the top effort, as a way to kind of get the camel's nose in the tent on that. So again, I think we hire and support you as our superintendent to make this decision, but I'm not personally very happy with race to the top and where I think it may be taking us.
Any other comments from board members? And then, I guess, two things. One, do we as a board want to sign on as well? A. B, do we want to direct the superintendent to not sign or to sign? And C, do one and not the other?
Sorry, what's the ramification to the board signing or not signing in addition
It's more
to the
points, I
superintendent?
think, is it? Points?
All right,
Points of the full point.
I see no reason we shouldn't sign it. I mean, I'm somewhat sympathetic to Doug's view, but not entirely. However, I don't think they really care, like, about what we think of their, philosophical position. Therefore, we should just sign this, and the off chance we get $2 million, which we probably won't, because Washington State will probably not be selected.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but I do think we should, and I agree we should sign it. Because, as Chip said, it is money. If we get it, we get it. I mean, if you look at, and thanks for the cheat sheet, I really
like
appreciate
this. This
that.
is really nice. Especially compared to
There's
the
nothing
documents that's in
on here that we have to commit to that we're not already committed to.
Right.
We're committed to the Common Core standards, I think, for the most part. We're committed to using enhanced data systems. We're improving local instruction. I'm trying to shorten even short bullet points. Our teacher evaluation system, I think, is a national leadership model.
Yep.
And so I see it's no skin off our teeth to support it, even if we have philosophical differences with the direction that this whole thing is going, which I certainly do.
Yeah, I agree. I echo many of Doug's comments, and more things that are coming out are showing that the charter schools aren't doing as great as I think the Secretary of Education believes they are as a whole. There are some good ones and there's some bad ones, just like there's public, but that's beyond this. I'm not sure that the state's going to be able to get it because of the rules that they have in place and the fact that the first round only had 2 states that got money. But that being said, if we are eligible to get $2 million, that we can do things to better our situation for students, I think we ought to be in the game and participate.
I do have a quick question. Why the pink tabs?
I think they were just points.
Different
Things
sections.
that we need.
Section breaks. Yes.
Okay, I was trying to figure out if there was something in particular I was supposed to pay attention to, and I couldn't figure it
Section
out.
breaks inside the application.
Okay, thank you.
I think the area that we need to be paying really probably even more close attention to as a whole of the impact that it's going to have in the state is the reissuing of ESEA and what that has and its components and how that's going to impact us. So I think we ought to be paying attention to that. And that really will impact everybody once they make their choices there. So I'm comfortable with directing all of us to sign and
I was actually
ship.
going to.
But, Chris?
The rest of you may have some philosophical issues with charter schools. I have none. Just to go on record with that, I'm in favor of competition. I want more choice schools.
I want
That
credit
said,
for our choice
I agree with all of
schools.
us. I want to have us sign this. So
I want credit for our choice schools.
I think our choice schools are good. I think charter schools that could be started out of the blue to catch you and take you where you don't know you're going would be even better.
You do realize, Chris, that the definition of charter schools is that they're no longer under the board authority.
I recognize that.
Okay.
I'm willing to live with that.
And the
As
thing
long
that-
as they succeed and are
My
held to those
problem
same
with
standards.
the way charter schools have been set up in the past is that we would have to authorize and be responsible for them and have no authority. That is a model I'm not willing to support. If I have to authorize them and be responsible for them, then I need authority. If I don't, that's another issue.
And they're finding that more and more of them are coming under the authority of school boards around the country in most recent stuff that I've read. That being said, we're not going to solve the charter school issue here, and the state obviously at this point doesn't support them. Therefore, do we want Chip to go ahead and is okay for him to sign, or are we wanting to join in with signatures as well?
I think we should sign it too. Why not?
Sign away.
Okay, sign away.
It's-
Consensus
it's
is that
easy
we
enough to
sign?
sign it.
Okay.
So
I
we
will,
will all sign.
Yep, I'll make sure that we get signatures from the board on the application before the deadline, which is in a couple
I'm
of weeks.
assuming I don't need a formal motion to make that all happen, do we?
No, we do not need a formal motion.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, that's
Thank you.
race to the top.
Next, under the non-consent agenda item is facilities planning and school configuration. And Catherine is bringing up a PowerPoint that I'll be showing as I talk this through. As you know, one of the jobs that we are faced with is making sure that when students show up, that we have a place to put them. One of the roles of public education, of course, is to make sure that every student has a free public education, which means that when they show up on our doorstep, we need to make sure that they have a desk and a classroom to go to, and usually a building associated with that. And that, of course, is challenging because we don't always know when students are going to show up. And often, students show up where there's no building, and there's plenty of buildings where there's no students, which is one of the dilemmas around public education. So we've been working for some time looking at our demographics, and I do have to say that as a school district, our operations team, headed by Janine Fogard, does a phenomenal job of planning our facilities and planning the budget around those facilities. Invariably, while we make modest adjustments periodically, we more often than not have the right things for the right kids in the right places. And we do need to make modifications periodically. One of the issues that we're faced with right now as a school district is that we're growing. And we've been a flat enrollment school district for a number of years. And for the first time in a very long time, we are growing and we're seeing substantial growth. There are three reasons that we look at, or three components that we look at as it relates to our student demographic growth. The first is we look at the King County births, the birth rate, and then the actual number of births. So in King County, we look at how many kids are born, and what is the rate, and how many of those students do we actually capture inside of Lake Washington School District. In our district, we capture about 10% of the births in King County. 5 years ago, in 2005, we saw a 10% uptick in the King County births. And that trend was a trend for 5 years. In other words, it went up to 10% and it sustained up to 10% for 5 years. So what that means is in 2010, guess what? Those kids are now going to be entering kindergarten. So what we're finding is beginning in the fall of 2010, 2011, we're going to begin seeing an increase in the number of students in our system to the tune of 400 plus students per year for the next 5 years, which is the equivalent of a new elementary school every year for the next 5 years. So this creates a bit of a dilemma for us. Here we go. Now the slides are caught up with the doc. Okay, go ahead. So kindergarten is one factor. A second thing that we look at is we track cohorts throughout the system. In other words, as kids are in our system, do we lose students or do we keep the students that we have? A third factor that we look at is new housing developments. So, and not only where is development taking place, but how many kids do we capture out of those developments? So, for example, there's a rate that we capture kids out of single-family developments versus multifamily developments. And we have some statistics that we drive, and we look at those regionally inside the system. So as we look at those three factors, number one, King County birth rates are up by 10%, starting in about 2005, and they've been sustained for the past 5 years. We're going to begin seeing those kids start to show up in our elementary schools beginning in 2011. Second, we're actually retaining more students as they stay in our system. So our attrition rate has declined over time. And then lastly, we are seeing development, and you will see that development particularly in the eastern portion of the district, in the Redmond Ridge area, as well as some fill-in development throughout the system. The net result of that is that we have incoming classes that are about 200 students more than our graduating classes. And what that means, of course, is that we're growing, and it is going to become a bigger issue as time goes on. So if we look at our student growth from 2006 to 2009, 2010, we see moderate growth, about 500 students over the last couple of years. But if we take that incoming population and extrapolate it through 2020, we see that we'll be moving from 25,000 students in 2012 to just under 30,000 students in 2020 because of the number of students that are actually coming in through the system as a result of those factors, birth rate or actual births, housing developments, and retention of students. So what we need to do when we determine what our space needs are is we look at a number of factors. Number one is we look at our standards for using school spaces. We look at the number of classrooms and portables that are capable at any given site, and we look at the overall capacity of the sites across the district. So when we think about the standard level of service for a school, we look at things like how many classrooms we need, do we have shared instructional spaces, other spaces such as art science rooms and music rooms and computer labs. Those are the kinds of things that we look at inside of a school. And we determine what is going to be our standard level of service. Go ahead, Catherine. When we ran the bond measure in 2010, we changed the standard of service. That standard of service included assumptions around all-day kindergarten for all students, a preschool in every school, as well as accommodations for space for ELL, safety net, title, and other programs in the district. Well, because the bond failed, and with that, it included some internal adjustments, such as grade configuration change, a feeder adjustment, as well as the need for at least 2 elementary schools by 2014. Well, with that failure and without the money to build those, we readjusted those assumptions once again. So the assumptions we're using and the numbers that I'm about to share with you are that we would have all-day kindergarten for all students, we would not necessarily expand preschool, and we would not necessarily expand our space requirements for ELL and safety net. Now, of course, all-day kindergarten right now, about 2/3 of our kids are in all-day kindergarten, so there is some space in the system, but that helps us with the adjustments that are necessary for some of these other needs. So when we we crunch all the numbers using these assumptions and looking at the space inside of the school system, we've got an interesting dilemma. And the dilemma is that we've got population growth, and we need to look at space in the entire system in order to accommodate for that growth. When we have been looking at this, we asked the community some questions about how we should best accommodate for that growth. One of the things that our community told us was that there was a preference on the part of our community to build at the secondary level rather than build at the elementary level. There also was a strong preference on the part of our community to change grade configuration, meaning that we would go from K6, 7, 9, 10, 12 to K5, 6, 8 middle schools, and 4 years high schools that would start in 9th grade. And about 70% of our community referred to that preference. So if we don't change grade configuration or feeder. So let me explain for a moment what I mean by that. So if we change grade configuration, it means that we would free up about spots for about 2,000 students in the elementary schools. So instead of having a K-6 school, we'd have a K-5 school. Those 6th grade students go to middle school. We'd have 6-8 middle schools. The size of those schools would remain about the same. And we would have 4-year high schools. So high schools would pick up 2,000 students across the system. Another opportunity for us is to change feeders, and what we mean by that is we have large populations in the eastern portion of the district, and we have space available in the western portion of the district. So if we push portions of the population from east to west, that actually allows us to use the space that is existing in the system instead of building space. Those are the two options that we have in order to utilize the existing space inside of the system. So if we didn't do anything, we look at the Redmond region of the district. If the bar is above the zero, above the line, that means that school or set of schools is over capacity. There's not room. If the bar is below the line, that means there is room in that school or set of schools. So if we don't do anything, we stay K-6, 7, 9, 10, 12 in the Redmond region, and we don't do a feeder adjustment, then Redmond High School by 2016 will be significantly over capacity. And if you look at some of the elementaries, Alcott, Dickinson, Einstein, and Parks, they are substantially over capacity. There's not room. So if we go ahead and look at the Redmond region and we do a feeder change. Now let me explain what the feeder change looks like. That feeder change would mean that we would move Bell Elementary School, and instead of feeding into Lake Washington High School, it would now feed into Juanita High School. So it would go, instead of feeding, it would feed into Finn Hill and then Juanita. Audubon Elementary School, instead of feeding Redmond Junior, Redmond High, would feed Rose Hill Junior and Lake Washington High. Einstein would go from feeding Evergreen Junior High to Redmond High to feeding Redmond Junior High School, Redmond High. So that's what a feeder bump, if you do, would look like. So when we do the feeder bump, you'll notice that it helps us in parts of the district. We still have some problems in that we still have large elementaries in the Einstein, Mann, Redmond, Rockwell region, but you'll see that problem that was created in Alcott, Dickinson, Parks, and Wilder has now been minimized. Okay, go ahead, Catherine. Now, if we do a feeder change and a configuration change, you'll notice that our elementary problem mostly goes away, and but we've created a secondary problem. So our junior high schools then are at good capacity, but our high schools, so Redmond High School, we see still has now substantial population issues. So we've got some capacity issues that we've got to deal with at the high school level. But our elementary problem has been dealt with in the eastern portion of the district, which is where most of our problems exist. Okay? If we look at Lake Washington region of the district, we have a very similar situation. So if we do nothing, we have lots of capacity at the high school, and we're out of room and actually over capacity at the elementary schools. If we go ahead and do a feeder bump there, we notice that that it begins to deal with some of those problems. If we do a feeder bump and a configuration change, you'll see that over time Lake Washington High School has capacity issues, but our elementary schools are more better balanced. But you'll notice that over time our elementary schools do have issues. In the Juanita feeder pattern, we'll notice that, again, Juanita High School, enormous amounts of capacity in that high school, with little capacity in the Frost-Keller-Muir area and no capacity in the Juanita-Sandburg-Thoreau area. If we do the bump, we end up seeing that we begin to flatten out those populations, so we do a better distribution, and then with the bump and the the school configuration change, you notice that Juanita High School now is more full. We have flattened out the junior high school issue at Finn Hill, and we have created plenty of capacity in the elementary populations. Okay? With Eastlake, no change, and we've got huge problems in the elementary. If you do the feeder bump, we end up, feeder bump and school configuration change. We've got Eastlake High School that needs space, but we've solved the elementary problems. Again, this goes back to, we've got a population problem in the system. We're either going to address it at the elementary level, or we're going to address it at the high school level. Our community preference was to deal with it at the high school level in terms of needing, building capacity or dealing with the capacity issues, and not at the elementary level. So, some things that we can do to deal with this problem. One thing we can do is add portables. There's pros and cons. Of course, portables are flexible, and we can put them up relatively quickly. The difficulty with portables is that they are ugly. They are not as adequate as a normal classroom, and they are expensive, about $150,000 per portable. And there are limitations that we have from our municipalities around how many portables we can put on any given site. Frankly, our community pretty much hates portables. We can also change expectations around how we use sites, such as we can eliminate computer labs or art science rooms or other things. We can also make boundary adjustments in order to continue to push populations into the places where we have space. So what would happen if we did no change? So we did not do a feeder bump, and we did not do a grade configuration change. In elementary, to accommodate those kids, remember we're required by law to accommodate for those kids that show up. It would require an addition of 100 portables across the district, or 50 portables if we decided to eliminate all-day kindergarten across the district. In the secondary schools, it would require 28 new portables. It would require us to change boundaries across the district in terms of elementary boundaries. So the cost would be about $16 million for 128 plus portables, or the equivalent of about 4 elementary schools and a half of a junior high school, in order to accommodate that if we made no changes. Now, if we made a feeder change, again, Bell to Finn Hill and Juanita, Audubon to Rose Hill and Rose Hill and Lake Washington, and Einstein to Redmond Junior and Redmond High, it would still require the use of 100 portables, or 50 with the elimination of all-day K. It would balance our secondary enrollments, would require the addition of 9 portables, and would still require significant district-wide processes. It would cost about $13.6 million, so it would result in fewer portables, but we would still have substantial impacts. On the other hand, if we do school configuration and a feeder change, it would require the addition of less than 10 portables in our elementary schools, and would allow space for all-day kindergarten and those programs. We would, however, need to deal with additional classroom space needed at the secondary level, specifically the high school level, or we would have the alternative of double-shifting high schools in order to accommodate for that space. So there is a no-cost option, double-shifting, if we chose to do that.
Well, if we did, different kind of cost.
It has a different kind of cost. I would agree with that. The boundary process, if we did this, would be limited in scope, so we wouldn't have to do district-wide rebounding, but we would have to do localized rebounding because we do have some high-growth areas. Again, using Redmond Ridge East as an example, some areas around Einstein, we've got some significant population growth that's happening in those parts of the district. So as a way to think about this problem, feeder adjustments deal with balancing the population across the district from east to west, but it doesn't solve the problem that we have more kids than we have spaces for. Grade configuration solves the problem in that we currently have space in some of our secondary schools that will pick up a number of those students, but it won't entirely solve the problem. But it does solve some of the problem. So if we look at school configuration and feeder change as a preferred option, which that is what I'm going to be recommending to you tonight, then the capital cost in order to do elementary portables would be about $1.2 million for 10 portables, $875,000 for 7 portables. And if we decided at the senior high school level to double shift, it would cost $0. Now, if we decided that that wasn't a tenable option, I see some nods around the room, that's not necessarily a desired option, it would cost approximately $50 million in order to create permanent capacity at the high school level in order to accommodate this population. About 250 additional students at Redmond High School, about 250 additional students at Eastlake High School, and the creation of a choice campus which would serve 6th through 12th grade students of about 675 students. So tonight I'm here to announce some decisions that have been made that we will be communicating to the general public tomorrow. Decision number 1 is that effective 2012-2013, which is 2 years from now, that we will be doing a feeder bump whereby Audubon will feed into Rose Hill Junior High School and Lake Washington High School. Bell will feed into Finn Hill Junior High School and Juanita High School, and Einstein will feed into Redmond Junior High School instead of Evergreen Junior High School. So as of fall of 2012, that feeder bump will be implemented. That means for those elementary schools, that impacts the students that are K through 4. The 5th and 6th grade students in those schools today, it does not impact those students. The impact, of course, is that it reduces overcrowding in the Redmond region of the district. It does change the junior high school and high school patterns for students in those schools, and it does take time to realize the full impact of that feeder shift. So each time a class goes through with the new feeder, it helps our problem, but it takes years to have that problem resolved. But the good side is that it does actually help us deal with those with that overcrowding problem that exists in the Redmond High School part of the district. It is interesting, of course, that Audubon Elementary School at one time did feed Rose Hill Junior High School and Lake Washington High School. And when the district was growing in the eastern portion of the district, Eastlake High School was built, and in 1993 that high school opened, and that school was shifted from west to east in order to fill that part of the district. Now that district is full and overcrowded, and we're having to make the shift back 15 years later, or actually almost 20 years later by the time it's done. The second decision that I'm announcing tonight is that effective the fall of 2012, we will be moving to a new grade configuration of K5, 6-8, 9-12 district-wide. This, of course, shifts the overcrowding issue from our elementary schools to our high school level. And as important is it creates some educational benefits for our 9th grade students who are currently in junior high schools but are collecting high school credit, which applies to college applications. We think that this serves us as it relates to our overcrowding issues and serves us from an educational program perspective. In terms of the grade configuration change, there will be no changes in terms of school assignment. It does give us a significant opportunity to prepare for how we are going to have middle schools instead of junior high schools and four-year high schools. Middle school education right now is receiving considerable attention in this country as a time for great opportunities for kids to make decisions in their life around the kinds of students they want to become and the kind of future that they want to prepare for. We believe that this is going to create a huge opportunity for all 7 of our junior high schools, which will become middle schools, in addition to our choice programs, whereby they will be able to rethink who they are, their vision and mission, and think about how do we prepare students for those transition years. There are other things that are resolved as a result of this, such as athletics, math and science programs, accelerated programs that become resolved by putting ninth graders at the high school level. Go ahead, Catherine. Things that haven't been decided yet, however. While we have decided we will be going to four-year high schools and a new configuration in the fall of 2012, and we have decided that we will be implementing a feeder bump effective 2012, what we don't know currently is how we will accommodate for the space needs at the high school level. As I mentioned in previous conversations, there's really four options that we have. One is to consider double shifting high schools, which is terribly inconvenient and complex, but does not cost a lot of money. A second is to use existing capital levy money and create a sea of portables in the system. That would mean that we would need to neglect the promises that we made to the community around things like fixing roofs and replacing window systems and doing the array of capital projects, everything related to energy to safety for our students in order to accommodate these housing needs. A third option is to consider running a capital levy in February of 2011 to build the appropriate space. Or a fourth option is to run a capital bond in February 2011, either smaller than was originally proposed or similar scope to what was originally posed in order to accommodate for this space. So that question is yet to be determined. And I'm going to be asking the board to consider public feedback and a number of options this summer and into the fall so that we can make a determination as to which of those options is going to be preferred, knowing that in the fall of 2012, we will be doing a feeder bump and we will be going to four-year high schools and 6-8 middle schools. The other thing that we currently don't know is what the school boundary requirements are going to be. Again, by doing both the feeder and grade configuration change, we know that we're going to be less likely going to have to do a district-wide rebounding at the elementary level, but we're likely going to need to do localized rebounding, and we'll be looking for that as the population actually appears in the system. Go ahead, Catherine. So, next steps. Tomorrow, I'll be sending a note to the entire organization. Catherine will be preparing some press materials, and we'll be notifying parents in those schools, Audubon, Bell, and Einstein specifically, that will be impacted by both the feeder bump as well as the grade configuration change. We'll be beginning the preparation immediately for how we're going to accommodate both the feeder bump and the grade configuration change. The middle schools in particular will be engaged in some pretty serious work over the next year about what this means for their schools and how is it going to impact everything from academic pathways to academic achievement to programs for transition. We'll also be I'll be meeting with all three communities, Bell, Audubon, and Einstein, to hear public questions and concerns, knowing that this is not a public input session for a decision. The decision has been made, but rather it's a time to hear the concerns and what we may need to do over the next 2 years to best prepare families as they transition to a new feeder pattern for their secondary experience. And then in the fall of 2010, we'll be conducting a series of public input sessions on what we should be doing in order to accommodate for the space requirements at our high schools specifically. So, here we go. I wanted to provide this report for the board after a great deal of work, and certainly welcome your feedback or comment.
Well, I know you say there's no cost to this double shifting, but boy, oh boy, it will be a nightmare. Athletics was the first thing that came, and all the extracurricular things, and where do you stick them, and how do you move them, and where do you place them, and all those issues, let alone who comes in the morning and who goes late at night, and how you do your staffing. So if it may not be a dollar cost, there'll be all kinds of other costs that go in there.
Well, the good news is we're already charging so much for athletics that may not be a problem.
For one, I'm sincerely hoping we come up with far more viable options than double shifting the high schools.
Well, I did mention 3, and I think all 3 of those are very viable options. I do, frankly, not excited about entertaining an alternative of double shifting high schools, but I also think that we need to be committed to listening to our community that did not approve our bond in February. What we did hear from the community was they support our district, they're happy with the quality, they support moving to a new grade configuration, but the economy is on people's minds and hearts. I think that if we come up with some lower cost options that are not as broad in scope, that specifically deal with these particular problems at our secondary schools, then we can ask our community that question. And is that a viable option? And based upon that feedback, then you as a board will have the opportunity to make a decision as to whether or not we put something on the ballot next February.
And I agree. I think we have to have the option of no cost in this economy for them to at least wrestle with and see if that's something the community would rather live with. We don't believe they would, but we'll hear from them when the time comes.
That being said, as you all know, I am absolutely thrilled that we are finally moving to middle schools and four-year high schools. This has been something I have advocated for now for probably 10 years, ever since I had a 6th grader and an 8th grader and thought that we really needed to change this system. So thank you very much. I'm cognizant that the feeder bump is going to be painful for some people, hopeful that it will work out, and it's been coming. I mean, the fact is the east side of our district keeps growing and the west side does not in the same way, so we had to move again.
And I will echo support. I think your decisions are ones that are best for our students. With the 70% every time we've asked in 3, 4, 5 different venues of surveying and groups and whatever, the support for moving to middle schools and four-year high schools, it's been very consistent. And I think that tells us that's the right direction and certainly the right things to do for those 9th graders. And it helps us with the facility pieces and the spacing pieces as well, but it more importantly does address a real important need for the kids, so that the students who are 9th graders really are in high school where they should be, taking courses that are pushing them to the end, moving them to their adult life, and the seriousness and the importance of being a 9th grader in high school. And so and I think it's an exciting time for our middle schools to recreate themselves and have an opportunity to do that. I think many of our staff will be very excited to have some innovative ideas and a chance to do new things in their programs. So, good direction.
Yeah, my only fear is that sometimes it could be taken as the cart before the horse. I personally think that the reconfiguration is simply the right thing to do educationally, and it's just icing on the cake that actually helps us solve a facilities problem, rather than the other way around.
Yep.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it might seem sudden to people, sort of, but I know, I mean, for the board, we've sort of seen snapshots of the thinking all along, and I'm pretty comfortable with this. It seems, I mean, it's not an easy call what to do, but I think this is the right way forward.
I think, process is important to this community, but I think sometimes we confuse process with veto authority, and I think the way this has been outlined, the process I heard Superintendent outline, where we work with, at the individual school levels, to try to work out concerns and anxieties about implementation. I think that's probably the most productive way to go. But I don't think we can have any illusions that in some cases this is going to be difficult. But I think we also know, because we've discussed it extensively as a board and superintendent, that doing nothing would be painful, even more painful. And doing things like double shifting, although we did it at one time in an emergent situation when we were remodeling the old Redmond High School, it's not a good option. And
Boy, do I remember that one.
so I think what we've got to do is put our energy into making this work and making the case that we need some capital resources and go from there.
And I appreciate your taking the opportunity and time to go and meeting with the 3 impacted elementary schools to talk to them in person, in addition to, rather than just giving them the news, but also to go and listen to them and hear their concerns, because they will certainly have some, I'm sure. Okay, so all you needed from us is kind of our blessing on it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm assuming that was your superintendent's report. Did you have anything else?
I am not going to say another word tonight.
Well, that's, you can keep talking on occasion. Doug, anything for Ledge for us?
Unfortunately, I have to say a couple of things. One, our National Association is working really hard to, in support of a bill called Keep Our Educators Work Act, which is Senate Bill 3206, sponsored by Senator Harkin from Iowa. And the thrust of that bill is to try to keep as many teachers working nationally as possible. Probably a Senate-initiated version of stimulus money. So it'll be interesting to see whether that gets any traction. If it were to pass Congress, it would obviously help backfill whatever is going to be lost when economic stimulus goes away. Number 2, Jackie referred earlier to extension of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, or ESEA, and our NSB, our National Association Executive Director, and our Chief Lobbyist is working really hard with the Department of Education to get our concerns reflected in the new legislation. And the best reading at this point is that something has to happen by later this spring, or nothing's going to happen with regard to that legislation this spring. And so I'll keep you posted on where that might be going. And finally, some of you may have seen the email about our own state association lobbyist, Dan Steele, is moving to work for the School Administrators Association. That's going to be a blow for our association, because we're already trying to fill the executive director position, and with Dan leaving to go to work for the superintendents, we lose a lot of institutional knowledge. And so I think our state association, at least in my opinion, is going to be running on just a few cylinders for the next couple of years.
Does that mean Barbara's retiring? Is he taking Barbara's job?
Yeah, in fact, the Senate passed a resolution to give you an idea how effective she was and how well respected she is. The state Senate passed a resolution honoring her and wishing her well in her future endeavors.
Well, yeah, that will be a loss, especially all that he does and the materials that he provides during the session on legislative activities, in a very nice, succinct way reflects what's happening on a daily basis on the WASDA website and for board members. So that's definitely will be difficult.
Maybe they'll lower your fees.
Yeah, right. You're
very cute. Me. Okay, board follow-up items. Anything from the board to follow up on that we need to, or for next time? Any future agenda items needed? If you filled out your little work session sheets, you can turn them in tonight. Debrief, anything for debriefing for tonight? I did share with you what they do at University Place only because I happened to see that come by through a WASDA set of emails and just what they're doing there. And I liked Robbie's comment. It was a good idea, but it seemed like an awful lot of work. Yeah, they do. They fill out a sheet after every meeting about how they've done in every part of it. You know, how did this go? How did that go? And then they summarize it at the end. And, but I'm not sure where.
Yeah, add another 15 minutes to the end of our board.
To the end of the meeting. Okay, board member comments. Byron did pop in, but I know he was off to do. Oh, Wendy's going to do it for him. Thank you. He left us some words. Byron Schutz, as I mentioned earlier, is co-president of the Lake Washington Schools Foundation, and they had a wonderful, successful lunch on Wednesday.
Yes, they did. And Byron, I offered to read what Byron had written. He said it was much too convoluted and written in the margins for me to decipher. But he did want me to thank the board for the support that they give the foundation and thank the community at large for their support and the attendance at the luncheon. And he said he would follow up with all of you with an email message regarding his proposed comments that I couldn't read. So just to thank you from the foundation and to everyone out there for their support.
Thank you, Wendy. They had close to 500 people this year attend the luncheon, which was very lovely and nice to see all those people fluttering through and out of Juanita High School. And their income at the end of the day, and of course hopefully more checks will be coming in afterwards, but they have $156,000 was raised, which is about $34,000 more than last year and actually the last several years. So it was just a very nice, especially again in this economy, to see the support and the
Maybe
number
that's
of
an
people.
economic indicator. I mean,
Hopefully,
maybe it means
hopefully we had
things are
lots
turning,
of
we're turning
good,
the corner.
good people in the audience. So it was a good program and very well attended, and they worked very hard. When you consider this was an all-volunteer effort to put that on, they did a great job.
Great speaker.
Yes, yes, sitting next to me. Any other board comments, other than we have to look at our schedule here? Does anybody have any other changes where there was a correction on one of the dates, but do we have any other date changes or comments on this?
So the change was the January 10th. Robbie asked that one.
Yeah, it was actually just a date wrong.
Wrong, okay.
It was a Tuesday date versus a Monday date. Easy to do on these things. Okay, otherwise, this is our calendar for next year in front of you. Any other comments from the board for the evening? No. Okay. All right, hearing none, our next meeting is on May 18th at 5:30. We'll have our board meeting. At 7 o'clock, we will have a work session on technology, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Nancy and a second from Chris. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?